All right, what's up? What's going on? What's good? Here we are, and this is the October 3rd, 2021 episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I am your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source. On social media, you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, through YouTube. We're all through that. So if you want to just go ahead and follow everything that we do here through the Boxing Source, all you got to do is just log in and just follow us through any one of those social media platforms. Here in this particular episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming card that's going down in Las Vegas, Nevada. Of course, the WBC and lineal heavyweight championships are on the line. Tyson Fury undefeated Deontay Wilder with one lone defeat to Tyson Fury. This is the third fight between those two combatants, and they're going to be getting it on in the main event October 9th, and it's going to be a real exciting event for those that are involved. If you are listening in here live now, this is pretty much going live on October 3rd. We got like a simulcast going down through YouTube and also through Twitter Spaces. So thanks for everybody that's listening in live right now. If you want to join in, either you could talk through the link that's provided on YouTube or whatnot, or you could just come in and share your thoughts through Spaces if you want to, basically get on and get in. So if anything, just wanted to get into it. Of course, you had Tyson Fury as the defending champion, did score his win over Deontay Wilder last February and had that stoppage victory. And of course, over the past year plus, it's been, a lot of back and forth, between both parties, a lot of controversy that's been raised up and everything like that. But all of that will basically come to an end on Saturday night. Of course, you were supposed to have the fight in July, but you had the positive COVID test through Tyson Fury for whatever it's worth. And now it had been pushed to October 9th, and you have the full card that's going down there on October 9th. And, both fighters are pretty much getting ready to go. Of course, we know about what's been going on with Deontay Wilder. Of course, he's been training with Malik Scott. Malik Scott is, now going in there as his head trainer. You still, definitely has JD's there with him as another trainer as well. But, he's definitely been working nonstop with Malik Scott. And, it's been a chronicle journey for Deontay Wilder and Malik Scott. So that's, basically been the whole ordeal here that, people are, kind of looking forward to see what happens with the results of this fight and, with what Malik Scott has been able to do, with Deontay Wilder. So that is something that, I'm looking forward to seeing. To see what happens with Deontay Wilder, if he has, been able to do a few things here and there while being with Malik Scott. And it's been probably, I would say over a year or so that he's been working with Malik Scott in the camp. While on the flip side, you had the whole thing with Tyson Fury, the thing with the positive COVID test or whatever it is, the birth of his child and all of that, that's been happening. So that kind of, does, have a few things that has been going on in the camp of Tyson Fury. So that had been, off and on as far as like how he was going to be able to fully focus and get himself going there when it came to this particular fight, So people are kind of like saying like, hey, maybe he's not, completely, 100%, when it comes to that. And those things have pretty much been part of his. It's been one of the main questions there for Tyson Fury is if he was going to be be there at 100%, so to speak, when it comes to this particular fight. And that had been brought up there in the conference call that happened last week. It was something where, you kind of like had him be asked if, he would be pretty much 100%. So, we pretty much wanted to see, or people wanted to know if he was going to be, 100% in this particular fight. And, what we're going to do is we're going to see what, he had to say in reference to that.
No, I never go into fights if I'm not 100%. I don't go in on 50s and 25s and 35s. I go in 100% and I give 100%. You never hear me making excuses about, why I did this wrong, or why the fight was a bad fight, or whatever, or why I got caught. Shit happens in boxing, Jeff, as you well know. You've been around it long enough to know that now. And you just got to do the best you can. And that's it. Get stuck in and hit him more times than he's hitting you. It ain't rocket science. Boxing is very, very, very simple. You hit the opponent more times than he hits you, and you're probably going to win the fight. And that's how it works. But am I 100%? I'm 1,000,000%. Look at me. I'm in fantastic shape. I'm as fit as a fiddle. I'm sparring 12 rounds. I've got the best sparring partners in the world. I'm absolutely ready. I'm ready today, tomorrow, and forever. I'll always be ready. And I'll never make excuses, because that's not me. I get in, I do the best I can, don't make any excuses, and get on with it. And that's it. When I beat Wilder, I'll be on to the next one, so on and so forth. It's never about the opponent. I don't care what they're going to do. I don't care what they bring to the ring. It's the Tyson Fury show until I hang them gloves up, and then anybody else can take over what they want to do. But until that day, it's all about me, and the roadshow continues.
So there you have it from Tyson Fury. He pretty much just said that, he is 1,000% going into this particular bout, and that he just feels like there is nothing else that that could pretty much be done as far as like what other fighters are trying to do or prepared to do. As long as he feels like he is 100% and that he's doing what he needs to do in order to prepare for his bouts, regardless of the opponent, that he'll be able to be the better man once the fight happens. And so, with that being said, we got to see like, everything as far as like all the stuff that happened beforehand, all the things as far as like I said before, with the birth of, his, last child, with the whole thing with that COVID test or whatever it was, and all the stuff about all the talk about what happened in the last fight. If that, that's going to be a distraction for him come October 9th. But he usually is one of the most confident fighters in the sport of boxing, as you've seen there with that particular clip, or heard there with that particular clip. And it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this particular fight. I mean, we saw what he was able to do in the second fight. He came in there, over 270 pounds plus, and pretty much fought on the front foot, fought going forward, forced Deontay Wilder to go backward, and didn't necessarily, have, he pretty much like had Deontay Wilder thrown off there for a little bit for, good amount of that particular fight before the eventual stoppage that happened in the seventh round. So what we are trying to see here is if Deontay Wilder had basically adjusted and made the proper adjustments in order to, get the better of Tyson Fury here in this third fight that's coming up here on October 9th. And, I'm, pretty interested in seeing like what is going to, happen in this particular bout, because It's mainly how much is on the line, for both fighters, I would say, particularly with Deontay Wilder. I think there's a lot on the line for Deontay Wilder. There, I would say is going to be interesting to see, like, okay, is he going to end up being the winner of this fight, or is he going to lose this fight? And if he loses, how he loses is going to be very important. Will it be another stoppage victory for Tyson Fury in this third fight, or will it, go to the scorecards like in the first fight that ended up in a draw? Now, if it, goes to the scorecards, maybe we have a close fight. Maybe it's, a blowout victory for one of those fighters and things like that. And so it's going to be pretty interesting how that's going to turn out. And I'm really kind of I don't know if what Wilder has been doing is going to be enough or not. We've kind of talked about this on multiple occasions. We've had the thing here where you got Deontay Wilder in preparation. Malik Scott kind of said that Deontay Wilder has put on some weight, and he's put on a good amount of it, from what we've been kind of hearing here and there. So it's kind of interesting to see where Deontay Wilder will be at this particular point. Kind of heard that he's up into the 230 to 235 range, which is even bigger than he was in the second fight. And we kind of seen what happened with him in the second fight, even though he had bulked up and weighed a little bit. By the time it was the third and fourth round, you kind of see him being very tired, see him worn out. His legs, were, not really carrying the weight that he did have, up top. And his overall energy was just not there. So it's going to be interesting to see that if he is going to come in at around that 230 to 235 pound range, if that's going to be, an asset, or if it's going to deter him over the course of the particular fight. Want to invite in one of our, key contributors here that does have a good amount of stuff on the line for Saturday night. Longtime contributor, I know him, Mr. Mike Grady is in the building. I want to know what you think about, how, each fighter is approaching this fight. Here we are days away from Fury Wilder 3 happening. What do you think about what's going down?
Well, I think Deontay Wilder has his hands full. Quite naturally, I'm riding with Deontay Wilder. I think that Tyson Fury is the man to beat. I mean, one can say I believe that he cheated in the last fight, but at the end of the day, he got the victory. So he's definitely the man to beat, and his skill set makes him the man to beat. Anthony Joshua is pretty flawed. Deontay Wilder is better than Anthony Joshua, but definitely is flawed as well. Tyson Fury is flawed as well too, but probably has less flaws than the other two. Tyson Fury, one thing that's going for him to be so big, he has pretty good waist movement in terms of his head. When I say waist, he sort of does the Canelo-like thing where he can plant his feet and then kind of avoid shots by getting off the line. And so the thing that makes him dangerous is that he can avoid shots by getting off the line, but he can also counter off of those moves that he make, off of those defensive moves that he can make. And so this leads me into what Deontay Wilder has to do, which is what he did in the first fight, which made him successful. Sort of his mystique made him successful in the first fight as well. But one thing that he did in that fight, something that he did in the Luis Ortiz fight, which was he used his left hand, he used his jab hand, and sort of did a lot of the hand fighting. He occupied Tyson Fury's mind with the hand fighting and sort of controlling where Tyson Fury goes. If you as Deontay Wilder are walking up with your hands up high, Tyson Fury will make like a quick move and then hit you with something that you don't see, or hit you with something that he walks you into. But if you're kind of, keeping him busy, tapping his arm, making him think that you about to go to the left, Floyd Mayweather does a great job of, like, he'll tap one side, tap the other side, and then you're like, they had a clip of him doing that to Canelo, and then Canelo's eye was like on both. You could tell his mind went from the left side where Mayweather tapped to the right side with Mayweather tap, and then he hit him on the left side. Like, Deontay Wilder has to do that and control Tyson Fury with his offhand. If he's able to control him with his offhand, if he's able to jab and sort of control the action with his forehand, he can disguise his right hand and land with his right hand. I think that as long as he's jabbing and is quasi busy, I know busy for him isn't going to be throwing 100 punches around, but as long as he does the hand fight and as long as he sort of just jabs to make him think about it, or at least his hand fight, he'll be okay. People will say he'll be losing the rounds, but in my case, it'll keep Tyson Fury thinking, and he won't be as active throwing his hands, getting super confident, sort of like he did in the last fight. Now, the only difference that I'll see, from fight number 2, is that we should not expect Deontay Wilder to come into the fight really sluggish. We shouldn't expect him coming in behaving like a zombie. So a rejuvenated, sort of game Deontay Wilder, not slug, hands and just walking like he a walking zombie, is totally a different person than what we saw in that last fight. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I'd be lying to say that it won't be a lot of probably ups and downs in the fight. I'm hoping that Deontay Wilder catch him, knock him down, hurt him, and then he's able to take him out. But more than likely, what might happen is, Tyson Fury will probably win a few early rounds. Hopefully, they're competitive. Deontay Wilder gotta come out with the intent to win the early round. But hopefully, he comes out, make the first couple of rounds competitive. Quite naturally, people are gonna say Tyson Fury is gonna be winning those rounds just because of people's mindset. Deontay Wilder catches him with something big, maybe in round 3, 4, 5, and then he drops him. Tyson Fury is not necessarily hurt, but we see that the same trope from the first fight is if Deontay Wilder lands something clean, he can catch him and take him off his feet. So that kind of resets the fight where Tyson Fury now is cautious of, I can't just go in and do all this and do all that. I gotta take his right hand away. Deontay Wilder stay with his left hand. And then that's sort of the thing that keeps him in the fight. The fact that he's using his left hand to disguise the right hand. He finally lands the right hand and then, keeps the equalizer in. What I'm hoping, none of this shit happens and he just, spark him out, within the first couple rounds. Get this man out of here, knock him out, earn me some money. A great story. I'm gonna put vindication up on Facebook because I think he needs to knock him out to be vindicated. So I can tell a story about if he knocks Tyson Fury out, Deontay Wilder is gonna have a great post-career story. Like, this man's gonna have an awesome story to where people are telling this story about, like, him coming from nothing to losing it to some adversity, to potentially like getting drugged and stuff like that, to coming and knocking a man out. There's only one story that can happen in this fight. Tyson Fury probably gonna get knocked out. That's what I'm believing.
Oh, so you think you would speak a believer, and so it might be received. Is that what I'm getting
Yes,
from what you're saying?
speaking it, I'm believing it. Deontay Wilder gonna give it to us, so I might receive it.
So, so what I was like interested in is you were talking about some of the stuff that Wilder was doing in the first fight, and in the first fight, initially you kind of seen Tyson Fury, do a few things where he kind of tried to feint Deontay Wilder and have Deontay Wilder think a lot, you know. And once he was thinking, he was pretty much being like a reactionary fighter. And by being a reactionary fighter, that allowed Tyson Fury to get in a few jabs, probably, control the range and things like that. And also, kind of like be somewhat of an aggressor. But after like, rounds 3 and 4 and stuff like that, where, Deontay Wilder kind of like seen the patterns that Tyson Fury was doing from a defensive standpoint, that's when he eventually kind of like caught up to Tyson Fury a few times and then was able to score, a knockdown by the time it was like round 9. But, even, with that and what's going on, will he be able to try to do that in this third fight? Or should he just try to go ahead and try to be aggressive, right off the bat so that, he kind of like says, you know what? I'm going to just blitz you. I'm going to just go after it, right from the get go. And you won't be able to take my power. And that's pretty much like how we would probably approach this third fight. Or maybe it's something different where, he tries to be a little bit of a, better tactician in this particular fight where he kind of like watches what, Tyson Fury does. But in this instance, he's more of a counterpuncher and tries to get in, on the inside and counterpunch on the inside.
I wouldn't hold my breath on him being a counterpuncher
Mm-hmm.
because even the way that he like sort of blocks, that it doesn't bode well for him to be a great counterpuncher in my estimation. Like his blocking and stuff is for a man to me that uses his feet. Like in his mind, his body, his repetition in his mind blocks such that he's either on the outside or using his legs to where he's away. Because like some people with his scrawny, I'm not calling him scrawny because the man is a specimen, right? But what I'm saying is you got some people who got really thick arms. Canelo Alvarez, when he lifts his arms up and do the high guard, he can lift his arms up and it cover most of his face and his upper body. But Deontay Wilder with his long arms is such that he has a lot of space there for somebody to hit him. He doesn't guard everything. Um, yeah, I don't see the counter punching.
Okay, I feel you. I feel you. I think I got like one person, another guest here on the live chat, man. Should be brother Marcus, aka Ohio Runs Boxing. What's good with you?
What's good, guys? Man, how y'all guys doing, man?
Oh man, doing all good. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. I mean, we're talking about this fight, man. Fury Wilder 3 and seeing like, what, the keys to this particular fight, like what needs to be done on each side, to see like, who will pretty much kind of like get the upper hand in this. And, Mike kind of like is approaching this on to, what Deontay Wilder what may have to do in order to get the upper hand in this particular fight. Probably just try to be aggressive right off the bat instead of trying to be patient like he was in that first few rounds of that fight and not really think too much. So what do you think about what Deontay Wilder may have to do here in this upcoming fight to get the upper hand?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a big Wilder fan, and I'm worried in this fight, man, because he hasn't had a tune-up. He looked good on the pads. We've seen different things, but it still don't translate into what you see in the ring. I think he has. I think he has to use lateral movement. He has to box a little bit. He has to try to uh, prepare himself for the guy that's coming forward, Tyson Fury, because Tyson is going to do the same thing he did in the last fight. Those are some of the successful keys you use when you're fighting a guy who can actually punch. Wilder can get you out of there. Uh, when you fighting a power puncher like Wilder or anybody, the guys that can come forward, you have to back them up. You have to go to them. You have to go into the kitchen, and that's what Tyson Fury did. Wilder has to use. I would definitely love to see him use his jab more in this fight, and be more. And I heard you say be patient. I came in and say he was patient the last time, which he was in a way. I mean, if you being patient and all Tyson Fury has to do is come forward, it's gonna be a long night for you, man. It's gonna be a long night. I think the game plan with Tyson.
You on YouTube? You on YouTube too?
Yep.
Oh, so you doing both at the same time?
Yeah, man. I got a simulcast thing going. I got brother Marcus here, talking about this thing with with Wilder here. So just bear with me right quick. Go continue there, Marcus.
But yeah, going forward, when he's coming forward towards Wilder,
Uh,
it's just he's going to try to smother Wilder. I want to know if Malik and them is work. Like I said, they're going to the body. I see that. That's going to be part of the game plan. And the lateral, he has to move around. He has to be able to get out of those tight those tight pockets when Tyson is coming in there, because that's what I want to see. Will he be able to escape when Tyson is preying on him? I don't see him doing too much praying because he's a mid-range guy. He likes to fight on the outside a little bit. So I just can't see Wilder just going and trying to mix it up on the inside. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do y'all see that? Do you see Wilder really trying to mix it up on the inside?
Probably for a little bit. But something to where, he could like get in and then get back out. You know what I'm saying? To where he's not really into, in the trenches for that long. So like you were saying, you got somebody in Tyson Fury that's expecting to come forward because he feels like Deontay Wilder can't really fight off his back foot. So from Wilder's perspective, maybe he's going to try to do something where if he does get backed into a corner, then he could try to do something to try to go 1-2 and try to step off, to the left or to the right so that he's not in the line of vision of Tyson Fury and that he forces Tyson Fury to reset. So I think that's kind of like the strategy that they may be going for, is to try to see if Tyson Fury is going to come forward, try to cut off the ring. And if he tries to cut off the ring, pretty much like have something in his head that says, okay, either I'm getting cornered or I'm by the ropes. I got to do something real quick and then get off the ropes so that, you have something to the point where either Tyson Fury resets or that you're able to step off to the side and then make Tyson Fury pay for trying to, get himself lured in. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's pretty much what the strategy it seems like he's going to try to do, is he's going to try to be more of like somebody that's going to lure Tyson Fury in to see if he's going to try to come forward and then, get a 1-2 in and then step off to the side and then have Tyson Fury reset. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I'm kind of like seeing here as the initial strategy by Deontay Wilder. But like I said a while ago, when you have Malik Scott saying that Deontay Wilder is trying to come in there with a little bit more weight, how is that going to work for Deontay Wilder if he's going to try to stick and move? Is he going to still have that, energy in the mid to late rounds? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if they're going to have Deontay Wilder bulk up and try to be mobile as well.
I hope the game plan, what they have set, is going to succeed. Even with the weight, you just nailed it on the head. I didn't understand that either. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with that, but man, I sure wish it was a tune-up. Like I said, I sure wish it was a tune-up, man. I'll be honest. but it's a lot of emotions. I don't want Wilder to get caught up with the emotions too, because it was a lot going on in that fight. We knew Wilder didn't look the same. I don't care what nobody say. Uh, he didn't look the same at all. There could have been a possibility something been in his drink or something like that to that nature. It could have been. We don't have no proof, but he's coming in here and he's coming to prove something. And sometimes that can go against you. Sometimes if you get so caught up in the emotions, get so caught up, you can lose before you even get in the ring because you want to get your payback so bad. And I just hope he comes in here and discipline and really focus, man. But the big part of this fight is how he's going to get out of those pockets when Tyson is trying to prey on him and trying to fight on the inside. Because I noticed we can go even in different weight classes. Landy Laura is one of the best mid-range boxers you can think of. He do not like mixing it on the inside. Just don't like mixing it on the inside. So when you force yourself and start fighting him, making him fight on the inside, he is very uncomfortable. So I want to know if Wilder worked on those type of things, because that's not his bread and butter. You get what I'm saying? So you got to take Wilder into the deep waters in these training camps and make sure he's comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation, because that's not where he gets his shots off. It's always mid-range. There's always been guys who respect his power, and they been on the outside, and he just be patient because he has power. And now you got guys to look at the blueprint. You just go after this guy. You don't sit there and admire his work. You just go into the kitchen, and it's a different ball game. So, but I do hope that their game plan is going to come in here, man, and he looks totally different than what we've seen in the last fight. I'm big on tune-ups. I'm really big on tune-ups when it comes to guys with Wilder type of style, but it's definitely but this fight has to be made. This has to happen. This is the third fight. He deserved his third fight, and I can't wait, guys. I really can't wait.
Yeah, you did kind of like mention something there with Deontay Wilder, with this, being a fight where it's a lot that's on the line for him, and that, there's pretty much like a lot of pressure that would be coming his way when it comes to this, because it's like, okay, this is his thing there where he'd be able to avenge his, lone loss. There was like I said, a lot of controversy behind the fight and everything like that. And that he and you see what he's been doing. He's saying, look, I want to get this back in blood, eye for an eye, stuff like that. So if he's going in there so kind of like motivated to try to get that back, will he have enough patience to just have that kind of like come to him, instead of trying to go all out to where he's not necessarily I would say efficient enough to try to get what he wants to get there. I got another guest in here through the live session through the thing on YouTube, it's simulcast live YouTube, and also through Twitter Spaces. But want to get in if he could jump in, Mr. Who you pick, Mr. Give me my credit. World Ranked is in the building. What's going on, World Rank?
What's going on, man? Such a big week, a huge week for boxing Twitter. I mean, I'm so excited, man. It's a lot of people that's invested in this fight, and I'm just excited. I got my money. I'm putting the money on Wilder. I don't have no fighting the dog. I just think the odds for Wilder is pretty good. And then what I'm expecting is more of the first fight in terms of tactics with Wilder. I don't think he's going to be – I can't see him with that mindset that he's approaching in this fight. I can't see him trying to box and trying to like you said, I don't know if he's going to have the patience to be able to implement a plan for 12 rounds. I think he's on a seek and destroy mission. I don't know if that's good or bad for him, but I'm excited to see it.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if he's going to, try to have the instance where he's going to try to be on his back foot. but at least he's going to try to be as stationary as possible, try to keep things, mid-range, center of the ring. And if there's any instance where he ends up backing up, that, like I said before, there has to be something in his head to say, okay, I can't back up no more. Let me step off to the left or let me step off to the right and have Tyson Fury reset. But if he kind of like goes into this to where he's like hell bent on, get revenge way too much, and that he gets himself, too aggressive, then it might be the instance where, he kind of, was at the first part of the first fight where, you kind of like seeing him be out of range a little bit, kind of overexert himself to a certain level to where he was missing badly. But if he, kind of like stays patient, allows things to come to him, and then just kinds to, react to that, but also, has enough aggression to get back at Tyson Fury, then maybe he'll be able to get himself ahead in this fight here come, October 9th. On the flip side, you got Tyson Fury, who, kind of like seems still very confident, says like he's at 1,000% and things like that. But given what has happened over, the past few months, like they say, okay, that he tested positive for COVID, but outside of that, he ends up going to the UK for like a couple months. He only been back to the US for a couple of weeks. So he's only had, camps for where he's basically, there for a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of is a question mark, right there. That's a question mark, so to speak, where you kind of like have him where it's like, is he really, really focused in camp or not? Because I'm not sure. Yeah, he might be, there training with the likes of, Jared Anderson and Efe Ajagba over at Top Rank and stuff like that. But what they had going down in the last camp that was happening. So maybe, it's a little bit better for him, but who knows?
I definitely agree. Like the mindset of where Fury at is just as important as where Wilder's at. But I wanted to get you guys' take on, in terms of the last two fights over 20 rounds, what game plan could Wilder implement that he hasn't tried already that would work?
I would say, in terms of something that he hadn't tried, I wouldn't go there. I would go to something that he has tried. So during the first fight, I saw Tyson Fury has his tick to where when you do engage him, he always dips over to the right side in the same position. So if Deontay Wilder does sort of attack and he leads with his jab and he does things to sort of make Tyson Fury care about the left hand, which also disguises the right hand, and feigning will do this as well. But Deontay Wilder has to put Tyson Fury in that mentality where Tyson Fury is like, oh shit, the right hand's coming. Let me dodge. Feint. I mean, do whatever. Make him go to that spot and then hit him in that spot. That worked for Deontay Wilder a lot when Deontay Wilder was hand fighting, when he was doing those things to make Tyson Fury always sort of like dodge to left, and then he end up on his right side, sort of dipped on his right side, and then hit him right there on the right side. That to me is something that I think did work and will work. How to get past Tyson Fury coming forward, I got to think about that a bit more in terms of Deontay Wilder's skill set.
I agree. That's a great breakdown on that. I think my concern is, like you said, my concern is going to be with the lateral movement if he's able to get out of there with the Tyson Fury coming forward. But another key factor in this fight that I think he can actually capitalize on in this fight is going to the body. I've been seeing them working on that. I think that's a big key when you're fighting a guy like Tyson Fury, who can actually box and move. He got great head movement at times. You go to the body. I want to see if Wilder can commit to those type of body shots because he's so known for knocking guys out with the right hand, man. You know, can he commit and keep going to that body because that's going to be important in the fight. Uh, you're not going to be winning points off one shot in the round, you know, or clip them here and there. You have to show consistency as long as that fight plays out. But Malik Scott is definitely going to be a big factor too in his corner. I definitely want to hear what Malik Scott is going to say between the rounds if it goes the distance. What is he going to be telling Wilder if things ain't going their way? That is really one of the big things that I want to see. I can't wait to see the instructions that will be given uh, that they worked on in this fight. That's
I
big.
want to I want to ask about the body shot part. Can that be rectified in one training? Because I'm pretty sure in previous fights with Fury that has been, not that it has been, but I'm pretty sure that has been discussed as part of the plan. I can't think that if that's something that was open in the first two fights that they didn't even consider working on. And could that let's say that they didn't work on that in the first two fights? Can that for his skill set be applied in one training?
That's I can go. That's my concern, to be honest, because I'm big on tune-up fights. When you have a guy that's like Wilder, he's a special talent, but he never had to make adjustments in his career like that. Let's just be honest. Most guys that he ever got into a fight with respected his punching power and would be on the outside, and it made him very comfortable. And even when you seen guys who didn't at first go at him, Gerald Washington, they was up on the cards for a minute. Ortiz, they was up on the cards, but then they would just wait and stay on that outside, and he would kill him with that right hand. But you just said a great thing about the body. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. I would have loved to seen it in the tune-up fight, but he's gonna have to try to do it in this fight. If the opportunity presents itself, and he has to try to, I want to see good head movement. I want to see certain, because Tyson has a jab too, so I definitely would love to see that. I would love to see if he can pull that off, but it's not going to be easy. You can't just work on that in training camp. And people know, if you've been in the game long enough, especially as a trainer, it's frustrating when you work on something with a fighter in training camp
Mm-hmm.
in weeks, and when they get in there, they forget it. It's like it don't even exist no more. It's one of the most frustrating things you can you can experience as a trainer. I remember one fight in particular. Ron Martin, he's out of Akron, but he stays in Tennessee. He fought Robert Easter Jr. I don't know if y'all remember this fight. They was Ryan was so frustrated. He wasn't pulling his shots. He wasn't shooting, but the trainer got so frustrated with Ryan, he just stopped talking to him in the corner. He just started giving him water. Like, he was so frustrated because that's not what they worked on. You look at film, y'all break this stuff down, and when you go into the ring and don't perform what you see and what you have practiced on, trust me, guys, it's definitely a frustrating thing. So I just hope Wilder definitely capitalize on this, and because he's never done this. He's never been a consistent guy that goes to the body and box like that.
Well, real quick on it. Real quick on that. That's kind of interesting because in two aspects. One, in the press conference that happened almost, it seemed like forever ago, one of the things that Tyson Fury said was that he kind of like put it on Malik Scott and Deontay Wilder and said, what in the world could Deontay Wilder do after in this one fight camp that he hadn't learned over the 10, 11, 12 years that he had been as a professional. He kind of like, brought up the whole thing about, having, his previous trainer there. And I kind of like see it as where you have somebody that knows how to, throw the jab, use distance, kind of go to the body well. And at one point he felt like Deontay Wilder didn't really follow those instructions. So I guess that's how he ended up being disappointed in him in the first fight. And you ended up seeing him, kind of like leave the ring before the judges' cards were out in the first fight. So how is it going to be if you work on the things that you've worked on with Malik Scott, like moving your head, trying to work the body, step laterally, step in and out, and come the fight night, you're not doing it. And in between rounds, Malik Scott is telling him what to do, but he's not. If he doesn't do it and ends up paying for it, how is that going to look, later on in the fight if it doesn't seem like Deontay Wilder is listening to what Malik Scott's saying? That's a key question.
I want to add one more thing about the tactics and about the tactics. And this is, I'm not a fan of any fight, so I'm gonna ask this in a non-biased way. How do we continue? Not even continue. How do we give a pass for Wilder in terms of changing his style each fight? Why is it that there's a belief that he's able to change? And not saying that he is or he isn't. Why are people under the suspicion that, and this is almost every fight that he has, that there's tactics that need to be changed, and he's capable of doing that? So my question is, how are we not accepting like we accept some other fighters when they are who they are? Why are we not accepting that with Wilder in his mid-30s right now? Why are we not accepting that this guy is who he is?
I mean, some people may be accepting that is, who he is, but on the flip side, you kind of like seen in the past over the course of his professional career where he has those elements where he could use the jab well, he could use range very well, he could, throw combinations when need be. But going on to what Marcus is saying, where he was concerned on the part where you haven't seen Deontay Wilder take tune-up fights to a certain extent. But my counter to that is you can take tune-up fights, but take tune-up fights to where you could probably match up with opponents that could be, close to or similar to Tyson Fury. But the problem is you really don't have many fighters out there in the heavyweight division that kind of mimic what Tyson Fury does. So whether you could get somebody that's a big guy like maybe who is it freaking like he was facing Eric Molina or Johan Duhaupas, actually Johan Duhaupas to a certain extent, where he has the height but he doesn't necessarily have the movement, have the movement of a Tyson Fury, you know what I'm saying? Or, somebody like a Artur Spilka. Yeah, like a Robert Helenius, like this mentioned in this live chat. Robert Helenius, he has the height, but is he somebody that could move his head and move around like Tyson Fury? No, he's pretty much kind of like right there in front of you. So it could almost end up being like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots type of fight or a good old slugfest, between, I ain't gonna say what somebody usually says about two heavyweights, but it would just be a big old slobber knocker type of a fight with a Robert Helenius. But if you got somebody that's tall and moving around the ring and kind of moving side to side, giving feints almost like he's a football player like Tyson Fury, that's like you got to think about those different elements all at once. And if you can't have another fighter that kind of like mimics that, it kind of is tough for you to prepare for someone like a Tyson Fury, not just as an opponent, but also as for like sparring partners. Could you have somebody come in to camp to kind of like mimic that type of thing with Tyson Fury that has that height and that reach? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
I wouldn't. I see where you coming from that standpoint, but I wouldn't look at it as who he has to fight that's similar to Tyson Fury. I would look at it more on the chemistry out of Malik and him. Would he be following instructions?
Mm-hmm.
Malik, so we'll see this chemistry being built. I would be more focused on that. And I remember a fight where Jermaine Taylor fought. I forgot his name. Usman. I'm trying to want to mess his name up, y'all. He fought this guy a couple before the Kelly Pavlik fight, and he did not look good, and people was criticizing him on that. And
That was the guy that came up in weight, wasn't it?
I forgot who it was, but
Kasim the Dream?
I thought he lost to Corey Spinks, though.
No. It was another one. He had dreads. I think he had braids. He was green trunks. He was from Ghana or something.
Yeah, that's Kasim.
Okay, Kasim. He did not look good at all, and people kept telling him. He got mad at certain fans that was riding with him, and I remember Jermaine Taylor saying on 24/7. He was mad at the radio hosts, and they was like, "Man, you ain't looking good. You gonna get knocked out by Kelly." And so enough, when that fight happened, he got knocked out by Kelly Pavlik.
But you make a good point in terms of Jermaine Taylor, and I'm gonna tell you why it could protect this fight. Jermaine Taylor, if you look at his Hopkins fights and his Uma fights and his Spinks fights, people were trying to make Taylor to something that he wasn't. They was trying to make him into a boxer as well. It's quite similar to Wilder, where they was trying to put a style that wasn't his. It didn't fit him, and he got a lot of slack in all those fights because he was fighting a style that didn't get him to where he was at. And once he got to that level, he could never go back to the old style because it was so people try to press into him to try to box, to throw the jab, to try to box and not land the power punches. And then he became a back foot fighter, led to him getting ran through when he moved up in weight because his style wasn't based on that, how he got to that point. So now we're trying to make him something that he's not, and then he just accumulated losses because his style didn't fit what his I guess his skill set was.
And you know what? And that's why you have to give credit to fighters who do make changes in the middle of their careers, because it's not easy. We don't see it often. Sean Porter has improved. He's a guy that has improved, where he went from, he still throws shots a little wild here and there, but he looked way better from the Kell Brook fight. He has progressed and got better and better. He learned how to break off clinches. I mean, he didn't learn. Jarrett Hurd is a guy, too, that didn't have really a style that he changes. He got different coaches, and he still liked to ignore punches and try to wear you down. Never really changed his style. So it's really hard when you got guys like Deontay Wilder, who's been winning most of his fights based off the fear of that right hand. I mean, these guys is not coming in there trying to push him back. And that's what you do mostly when you fighting a guy who can actually punch. Kelly did it to what's his name? Edison Miranda. Miranda was a puncher. Kelly told people, "I'm gonna push this man back." He said, "You out your mind." You went in there and pushed that man back on his back foot. It's the mindset too. And Tyson Fury knows that he can he can take his shots. Tyson he got up. This man has got up no one gets up from Wilder's right hand. And it still was a controversy with the first one, the first knockdown when it was, 11 seconds, 13 seconds, whatever we want to, bring up. But the man got back up and he damn near won that round or split it in a draw because he hit Wilder a couple shots. I was like, what in the world? Like, it's the mindset too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point there. Especially with the thing with that second knockdown that happened in the first fight, is that the thing with Tyson Fury is it's almost like he has an instinct that he will not lose. He just does not want to put himself in a position where he would lose. And so even though he could be down or the momentum could be shifted away from him, he's going to try to find a way to get it back somehow. And so that's what he kind of did in that first fight where, in the ninth round, he kind of made a mistake in ducking down, like y'all was saying, he was ducking down and getting caught. And then he ended up, going down to the canvas. And once he got up, he pretty much, tried to get that back there in the ninth round. And then in the 12th round where he, got tagged with the right, then with the left and hit the canvas and got up, he went ahead and just, tried to get that back. So, I got to see if, Deontay Wilder could have that instance where he doesn't get himself to a point where he gets too overconfident against a guy that feels like he just does not lose. You know what I'm saying? Like he says, like, there is no one born from his mother that could beat me, is usually his line. And I think that goes to not only the level of his confidence, but the level of him not giving up at any particular point, no matter how down he may be. Adding in one more guest in here, checking in from Philly. He says that he's going to say boxing. YSL Sports Media, what's going on?
Philly's going to save boxing one more time. I need y'all to understand that. All right, so I heard my man from Ohio runs boxing, right? And I heard his points, and he made some good points, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people are overlooking. So you look at Tyson Fury, right? Tyson Fury is good at a lot of things, but counterpunching isn't one of them. Tyson Fury takes a lot of pictures, and he often gets caught coming out of the back door. That's how he got caught with Wilder both times. If you notice, after he throws a combination, he kind of like leaves out with his hands down low. All right, so one of the reasons why I always thought Anthony Joshua would beat Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury really doesn't fight well on the inside like people think. It's because Wilder was so inept at it, but he's been working on it for 2+ years. And Fury's vulnerable to body punching because like his head moves and his feet move, but his body doesn't. He's fat. I don't think Fury's been training to the level that he should. He spent the better part of 2 years trying to get out of a fight, where Deontay Wilder spent the better part of the 2 years just focusing on beating that man. And I think that psychology is being overlooked. Tyson Fury is getting stopped in 6. You heard it here first. And I don't even think this fight is going to be as competitive as people think.
Do you think that it's going to be to the point where Wilder is just, I wouldn't necessarily say more aggressive, but he'll beat Fury to the punch more often, and that it'll seem like Fury is much slower throwing his punches than it was in his previous couple of fights?
He's adopting Philadelphia principles in boxing. A lot of times people just look at Philly boxers like, oh, yeah, you got the Philly shell, shoulder, fight well on the outside. That's one part of it, but Philly trainers believe in systematically breaking down a man, which Wilder didn't believe in. Wilder believed, oh, I'm going to hit you with this one shot and then you're done. But I heard him in an interview talking about, I'm going to be hitting your neck, I'm going to hit your shoulders, I'm going to hit your arms, I'm going to hit your hips. That's like Philly, like that's what the trainers talk about in Philly. So he's going to be looking not for one shot, but to systematically break Tyson Fury down. A Tyson Fury that's very jiggly. He's very jiggly right now. And I just don't see it. I don't see it going any either way. Like people think this is going to play out like the second fight. You're out your mind. It's going to get real ugly around round 3. So y'all can snap me on that. Around round 3, it's going to start getting real ugly where y'all eyebrows are going to go up. You're like, yo, what am I watching? You're watching Tyson Fury get his fucking ass whipped. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I think it's to the point where, Wilder will throw and not care what happens with the result. It is kind of like what you're going at with this is that, you can't be necessarily concerned about what happens if you land, if it gets blocked, if it gets caught by an arm or anything like that. Just throw it.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as that, JR, because that's sort of what got him hit on the top of the head by not being okay. He was thinking too much, but I would argue the fact that he wasn't intentional behind some of those shots, it was sort of like lethargic and just kind of throwing the shot just lackadaisically. that's what got him hit on top of the head.
I actually think that's the only way he can win. The exact way that James said. I can't see any other way that I can't see him winning 12-round decision. He got to me. Only way I can see him winning is throwing caution to the wind.
Well, what I'm saying is, I agree he needs to throw more punch. He needs to be more active. But if I had to relate it to a fight, Stavern won. Like a control active.
No. Control, not that control, because that was that simple Vlad boxing 1-2, 1-2. You can't fight a taller man that way. Just can't.
Well, I disagree. I think him using his arm fighting, which is what sort of got Tyson Fury in a defensive mindset, sort of thinking about dodging, worrying about the right hand, use his left hand to disguise his right hand, throw the right hand more times than what he normally does, get Tyson Fury really thinking about, is the right hand going to come after he does feints, after he, uses his left hand to sort of hand fight and stuff. Yeah, and then get him moving in that same position that he was in fight one, to where he tries to dodge and you feint him, and then he moved down in that position and then hit him right in that spot when he ducked down to the right.
You remember Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd, right? How would you say Manny performed well in that fight?
You mind saying that again? My something was up with my speaking.
You remember Pacquiao versus Floyd? Do you think Pacquiao performed well in that fight?
I mean, I think he lost the fight.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you think he performed well? Like, did you? Let me rephrase that. Did you ever think that Marcos Maidana will give Floyd Mayweather a tougher fight than Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah, I would have never thought that. I would have, but Manny was reserved in his mind. Manny, when after Floyd hit him in round one, hit him clean with like a clean right hand, either it was a lead or a counter. I feel like Manny was thinking about, oh shit, he gonna Marquez me, Was
Maidana thinking about that?
No.
Joshua made a mistake where he tried to outbox a boxer. You don't do that. Now, I'm not telling you to completely throw caution to the wind. I'm saying you have to beat his body up. You're not going to outbox Tyson Fury. At least Deontay Wilder's not. You can't, no. Beat his body up. You got to make it a fight. Beat him up, then stop him. Systematically break him down.
I get that. That's what I mean. It's a beautiful game plan, but it's one thing to go out. It's another thing to go out there and do it. He's going to have to do it. We just have to see it. If he's going to be patient enough to even try to break Tyson Fury down, because like I said, it could be a frustrating thing mentally. Tyson Fury has a lot of tactics that people don't pay attention to. I mean, even when he got knocked down in the first fight, he got up and he looked like he saluted. If mistake me if I'm wrong, like he saluted to the fans, like, okay, I'm good. Little things, licking the blood, all this little stuff that he plays mind games with Tyson, with Wilder, can play a big factor. Wilder, like I said, haven't really hurt this man to the point where he can't get up, or his legs is wobble. It's like so that plays a big part in Wilder trying to really feel like he can actually hurt him and get him out of there. Because I'm trying to tell you, if he stay committed to going the distance and trying to win on the cards, if he can't hurt Tyson Fury like that.
If he land clean, he'll hurt him.
YSM, I want to ask you a question about, and I don't know if you was on when I asked this question about Wilder and applying the tactic of going to the body. Why is it, in your opinion, why is it the expectation that he can do this when he hasn't done it any of his previous fights?
Well, let me ask you this, right? All right, so initially people thought that it would be the same outcome, and their reason being was he only had a couple of months to prepare. That was over a year ago. So I'm looking at it like this. He's an elite level athlete that's never really had to focus on the nuances of boxing because his power always bailed him out. And so now he's been humbled, and now he actually has to learn how to box. And I'm just going by what I see because we don't know what's going to happen. You could be right, I could be right. We don't know. But I'm watching him make more of a concerted effort to even go to the body. Now we're talking about probably the biggest puncher in this generation and maybe even of all time. So you're talking about a dude that just has nuclear power punching on your body. And that's the game plan. And he said that that's the game plan. I just think with his athleticism and Fury not being good at that, like at defending body punches, I just feel like it's just going to be a long night.
So I agree with y'all on one thing. The only thing that I'm saying, like now that you putting that in my mind, a victory could be more assured if, to me, he starts with the jab. Everything he does is the hand fighting. But yes, after he does that, when Tyson Fury raises his hands up high, then yes, that's when he throw the body shots and sort of takes caution to the wind then. But Deontay Wilder can't come out there wild like he does when he gets somebody hurt, because he himself is always very, very vulnerable when he behaves like that.
I agree. That's what, as a matter of fact, that's what got him stunned after he knocked Fury down. You're right about that. He came in wild, and Fury put him on like a straight shot, and that kind of like rattled his cage.
Yeah. But I do agree, if he leads with the jab, do the hand fighting, Fury put his hands up in terms of like, bracing for the shot, Deontay Wilder go to the body, and then, he mixes it up whether or not he go to the body, he hit him in the shoulder. Whenever Fury puts his hands up high, Deontay Wilder hits him wherever he can hit him at. But he has to start with the jab, and I would even argue to say he might even have to end with the jab to get himself out of danger.
What you're saying is feint with the like everybody looks for the straight right. So you're saying throw the jab, feint the right, and then left hook to the body, right hook to the body like that.
You'll say that again, Jamil.
I said throw the jab, like try to cut him off with the jab, then feint the right hand to get the hands to come up, or to get him to give up ground and then go to the body. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that'll be one thing. And then when he let's say if you do that and then he start getting used to you doing that, then now when you do the jab and then instead of you have an opportunity now the way you could actually throw the right hand. Like any combination of all those things that you're mentioning, I think will have Tyson Fury in a more defensive posture, as opposed to the thing that's gonna make Wilder win this fight is if he mentally gets Fury out of that offensive posture. I personally think if Tyson Fury is in that offensive posture and Wilder is going back, it probably won't be that favorable for the home team, because he's not used to that. So which means he need to start the jab, feint the right. Sometimes he need to throw the right to get Fury really thinking about whether the right can come, or if he does feint the right, exactly what you're saying, throw left to the body, right to the body, and then maybe even do the Klitschko, grab him so he doesn't hit him back. But Deontay Wilder sort of take a little time, when he try to get out at times. All I'm saying is when he's leaving, minimize the opportunity for Tyson Fury to see that, he's leaving now, let me hit him. And an 8-foot wingspan, he has a good opportunity to hit him as he leave going out.
I'm gonna be devil advocate here, and I'm gonna account for two things that I don't think y'all are accounting for. First thing is range. Tyson's jab is gonna get to Wilder before Wilder's jab gets to him. That's first of all. And then the tactics that y'all speak of, I would think Fury would have to be a standing target for that type of offense. And I don't think he's gonna be that. And I think one thing that he learned from the first fight is don't take a step back. And I think he's gonna implement the same strategy in this fight. If you have to bully Wilder, I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to take a step back, because that's what got me in trouble in the first fight.
Even with that, I think Wilder to a certain extent has to be more active and more versatile with his attack, because in those first couple of rounds in the second fight, you kind of seen him throw the jab, whether it was upstairs or to the body. Because there's times when Deontay Wilder throws jabs to the body. It's just that he doesn't do things to where he sets up the right hand. So initially, when he throws the right hand, Tyson Fury can see it. So either Tyson Fury avoids the right hand completely, or if he lands, then it doesn't land with that much emphasis. Because, like I said, after that second fight, when you saw, Deontay Wilder land with the right hand, he had to throw that right hand fully extended out to where it would land on Fury's chin, but it didn't have the power that you usually see coming from Deontay Wilder. So the thing with Tyson Fury is he's just trying to measure the range and the distance between him and Deontay Wilder so that he is not really in that mid-range to like semi-close port, to where if he gets caught with the right hand, that it doesn't have the power that you usually see from Deontay Wilder. So he's going to be trying to measure distance and things like that, where Wilder, on the other hand, he's going to have to try to get on his front foot, try to get into range, throw when he gets into range so that he's more active, that he could throw, jabs, hooks, and everything like that, that he has to land somewhere. Because for me, for Wilder, it shouldn't really matter if it lands or not, just as long as you're able to hit something. Like YSM said, like it has to hit something. Like you're hitting arms, you're hitting shoulders, you're hitting the body, you're hitting the head, you're hitting the glove, you're hitting something. Because if you don't and you miss and you're out of range, you're open to counters, you're open to overexerting yourself, using energy, that type of thing. And Wilder can't really do that at this particular juncture, especially if he's going to be coming into this fight a little bit heavier than he was in the past two fights.
Hey, Jay, I completely agree with you. The puncher has to be the puncher. Stop looking for one shot and systematically break him down. Nobody's ever fought Tyson Fury that way. The one dude that actually went to his body had a lot of success in Otto Wallin.
Yeah, he pretty much like went to the inside, and once he got close enough, that's when he just started working and just threw punches and just said, I don't care, man. I'm throwing. I'm getting in the body. I'm going up in your face. I'm doing all types of stuff, man, because I don't care. I'm here to fight. I'm here to try to win, and I don't really care what happens, in the flip side. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out. You know what I'm saying? But that's how Otto Wallin kind of like went at Tyson Fury at that particular time. And I think that's pretty much what, Deontay Wilder has to do here. Because, I mean, like you said, if, you don't necessarily think that Tyson Fury really does that well on the inside. And, well, being 6'9" and stuff like that, we've seen his fights. You really haven't really, seen him do very well up close as far as like throwing punches up close like that. That kind of like makes him feel uncomfortable.
Can I make a point to all the detractors real fast? All right, hey, yo, just listen up real fast. So when Wilder was throwing at Tyson Fury, was he throwing at Tyson's head or his body in the first couple of fights? His head, right? And yeah. Tyson Fury was slipping it. So therefore, those punches weren't landing. What me and JR are saying, okay, what if he doesn't care about hitting the head? You got Wilder with that power hitting your body over and over and over again. Over and over again.
It sounds
right?
good.
How long? Just wait. How long do you think Tyson Fury can handle that?
Not long at all. But again, we talking about a guy who's never implemented that in any of his fights, and it's just like we got this envision of the Sparring 1 fight, or just the Sparring 1 fight, and it's just this envision of that this guy can change. And again, I'm not saying he can't. I'm just looking at past history and trying to put a spin on where's this confidence coming from in terms of being able to change a tactic this late in the game for him. And I'm not saying that he can't. I just can't envision that being implemented in one fight. That's all.
I mean, I feel you. I know exactly what the game plan is.
That can actually have an effect on Tyson Fury. But here's another thing that people ain't really talking about: poker face. You can have a good poker face. You can get hit with some body shots that really hurt. But if you play it off, you can actually stop him from throwing the body shots because you feel like he ain't affecting you. Poker face in boxing is one of the biggest strategies that a lot of people don't pay attention to. So he can definitely get hit with some of them body punches. But Tyson Fury has tactics where he can actually make it look like it's not even phasing him when it probably is. And sometimes that makes fighters stop doing that. So, but yeah, I think to agree with Jay, I think he can. I think he can pull that off if he commits to that. I mean, this is a whole new ball game, so he has to commit. And I'm actually rooting for Wilder. I'm a big team Wilder.
And we also got to
like I said,
consider the aspect of the energy that it will take for him to implement some of these plans.
I think Tyson is going to be Tyson. Tyson Fury is just going. I think he's going to have that same type of game plan. Go into the kitchen and try to bully this man. And it's what Wilder and Malik game plan is going to. That's what I want to see. That's the most important thing to this fight. What is the game plan with Malik and Wilder when this man is coming forward, who's trying really disrespecting your punching power, who's saying forget your punching power mentally? That's what Tyson Fury is saying when he's coming forward.
But he's shading the right hand. So even like one of y'all mentioned, even when he was throwing the right hand and connecting, he was taking something off it because Fury saw it coming, right? What's going to happen when Wilder is in his chest? I've never, like, it may not happen. I just know that it's the Fred Jenkins school of boxing. That was Malik Scott's trainer. And that's what that's what he's going to do. He's going to try to close the distance and beat him up. Also, Fred Jenkins is the one that really caught the Tito Trinidad reps. It wasn't Brother Nazem. Fred Jenkins told Brother Nazem to watch out for it.
Yeah, man. And the thing about poker faces, man, I understand that, but in heavyweight boxing, sometimes the best thing to do is to try to go to the body first, and then the head will be open after. You know, if you can invest enough in the body, the head will be available to you. So if that's your game plan, try to stick to that game plan as much as you can, unless if you see immediately that there's something that your opponent is doing that's kind of like a quick counter to that. You see, because if you see something and that is working, then you gotta go ahead and try and stick with it as long as you can, because if it's successful, you stick with the success. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the strategy to go to the body, then just try to roll with that. I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to see if they could be aggressive with it or use it as something to the point where they can use it as a counter, or try to, get under the jab of Tyson Fury, try to move around, try to get low, and then, stick a 1-2 to the body and then get out of the pocket, So they're trying to approach it, for one, as a, strategic thing. And then another thing is to try to be as aggressive as possible, because if you're going to try to be front foot dominant, or try to, try to go at your opponent as quickly as possible, then, maybe you could try to do something to where you have Tyson Fury in a corner to where he wouldn't be able to do anything in mid-range and up close.
I wonder how much energy would it take for him to get on the inside, and how would that affect him? I'm pretty sure his conditioning will be great. I just, once he gets inside, how much energy would it have took him to get inside, and how early does that happen? Will dictate also how effective he is once he gets inside. Does it take him 7 to 8 rounds to get in, or does it take him 2 or 3 rounds to get in?
Round 3 is going to get really ugly.
Because we know Fury gonna be leaning on him. That's a guarantee. Fury's gonna put all his weight on him and hold and do those type of tactics to try to take some of the energy out of Wilder.
Yeah, that's gonna be another key part. If Wilder could get himself and I said this initially, as far as like instinct is concerned. If Fury was going to be front foot dominant, if Wilder was going to have the instinct to where if he's close to the corner or close to the ropes, that he gets away from the corner or the ropes. But another thing is he going to have that instinct to where he will not allow Tyson Fury to tie him up? That's going to be another key thing, because a lot of the stuff that happened in the second fight, Deontay Wilder allowed Tyson Fury to do those things. He allowed Tyson Fury to lean on him, to tie him up, to, get the air out of him, early. And he has to do something to where it's like, you're not going to allow me to tie you up. I mean, to get tied up. I'm going to get something to where either I'm going to push you back, or I'm going to try to get my arms out and then throw a couple of punches and then, see what happens with the ref. If the ref's going to break or if they're going to let us fight, who knows? But I will not allow you to tie me up. That has to be key for Deontay Wilder. Because if not, then he could be in the same predicament that he was in February of 2020.
I hope that before the fight, he's not super wound up and like wasting all that emotional energy that he wasted last time. I hope that he's, like just zenful walking into the ring, like thinking about, knocking him out and stuff, but all that pacing and moving and stuff was not helpful.
No, I think he's going to be good, man. He says, I'm at a good place. I'm loose, but I'm focused. You're going to see a rejuvenated Deontay Wilder, come, October 9th. That's pretty much been his words, whether it was on the PBC podcast or the press conference that happened last week. He's pretty much he says that he's in a good place, that he feels very confident, but also patient at the same time, that he feels like his connection with Malik Scott and getting things done and getting it done in a way to where he's not really having that many distractions outside of it, that he can just focus on this particular fight. And so, even with what, Marcus was saying about the amount of pressure that could be on Deontay Wilder for this fight, and, how much he might be focused on getting his revenge, maybe he could be in a good, particular place at this particular point, even with as much on the line as it is for this particular fight for him. So, it's going to be, all or nothing for him. But I think that he wants to be at a particular place where it's not where he's going to be, too overly excited, to where, like, if it comes to the fight and he has an opening, that he doesn't really go, all out and go wild and that type of stuff. He'll probably see if he could just try to stay patient as possible.
It's hard to envision it going like the second fight. I can't see it being the same type of fight. I see it more as either the first fight or Wilder catching them, but I can't see the second, like the type of fight that it became. I can't see the second fight reoccurring. I don't know if y'all feel the same way.
Yeah, because they're gonna watch their water this time. They're gonna bring their own water. They're not gonna allow none of that foolishness to happen.
Oh, God.
Shots fired.
Oh, so you mean to tell me that since they don't have a disloyal trainer and they most likely won't have a crab in the bucket referee,
I said nothing about the trainer. I said they're gonna watch the water. They're gonna bring their own water, meaning that nothing that can make you feel sleepy. Nobody giving you a damn sleeping pill or nothing like that. That's very unlikely to happen. I don't think he gonna be super lethargic and a shell of himself in this fight. So that's all I'm saying in terms of what Jamil's saying.
I agree with you.
Gotcha.
I agree with you. too. I agree with that because I'm big. Like I said, I'm big on some of the stuff that happened in that second fight. There's a lot of stuff that was just head scratching for me personally. And they're gonna be checking his gloves. They're gonna make sure them bad boys is on correctly. It's gonna be a lot of stuff that they paying attention to leading up to this fight. Like I said, I'm rooting for Wilder. Definitely for those specific reasons too, man. It's just like, you know what I mean? You would like to give Tyson Fury credit, or any fighter credit when they win, but there's some things you just be like, wow, you just got to call it out, man, when it's very, very obvious. But I'm predicting Wilder probably get him out in the later rounds. He can probably beat Tyson Fury and knock him out in the later rounds. I heard 6 rounds early. I don't know, but I think take it to the deep waters between 9 and 12. That's where Wilder can have a lot of success. Fury slows down.
Well, in the first fight, before the first fight came about, I thought that Wilder would have been able to break down Tyson Fury and get him out by the 9th round, because I thought at that particular time that Tyson Fury wasn't fully, I guess, back to where he could be on quote unquote fighting shape. Like, he was fighting Sefer Safari and all these other guys that really were like in the top 150 heavyweights.
Big drama show.
Big drama show. But I just felt like, with Wilder, having that, the amount of activity that he had up to that particular point and fighting the guys that he was fighting, that he would have been able to, break down Tyson Fury at that particular point, and that Tyson Fury wouldn't have the energy at that time to kind of like get through those 12 rounds. But the way that Tyson Fury was able to start, that kind of like surprised everybody at that particular point. And so it seemed like Deontay Wilder had to, get his bearings back and try to, be patient a little bit. And that's how he was able to, get himself back into the fight. But, in this particular case, it just seems like from a few people's perspective that it just doesn't seem like Tyson Fury is kind of, fully into it as much as Deontay Wilder is, in reference to camps and everything like that. Not with, all the stuff that's going on, like I mentioned, pretty much at the beginning of this podcast or whatever it is. But even outside of that, it just seems like he's not necessarily going as hard as he usually does in training camps. And I think that might be a huge factor here in this particular fight. Unless if he just says, you know what, if I feel like I'm in fighting shape, like he said earlier this week, he said he's 1,000%, and that he says he has, no excuses, and that, he doesn't care how his opponent prepares. He just feels like, as long as he says that he's prepared well enough that he could beat anybody that steps in the ring. But it's a whole different thing than when the bell rings for the first round come, October 9th. So we'll see how that's going to turn out. I mean, anything else about this particular fight here, man? Before I run through the card that we got so far for this presentation.
Even if either one of these guys lose, they'll still be better than Anthony Joshua.
Oh, here we go. He had to get that.
Hey, and Wilder win, we need to make a statue like they did Tyson Fury. So we need to make a statue of Wilder, man.
Y'all know if he wins, they gonna say Usyk is number one. When he wins, they gonna say Usyk is number one.
Oh, of course they is. They gonna say Usyk is number one because Usyk is, like I said, it's a boxer and he can't really sell. They gonna have to do everything. They gonna Usyk is gonna be compared to God in order to make people interested in watching him.
Even with that, it's not gonna work well, man. Because Usyk is just Usyk. His character is who he is, but if he hasn't been able to get the following that people want him to get, it's not really going to happen. But I guess before we get on to the fight card, Lazy Lefty joining in here on this live conversation here, man, real quick. We went in depth about this fight, main event, Fury Wilder.
I've been listening to you.
And pretty much like got the keys to victory for both fighters, man. But mostly, what Wilder could do here in this upcoming fight, man. Anything else you would want to add?
Yeah, I got a question for everybody. I'm waiting. I got about 10 more minutes to my wings done. So I got a question for everybody. Then I'll continue listening to the discussion. But you remember that second fight, in that second round, Wilder caught Fury with a right hand where Fury himself, and he said he thought he's going to go down. Then a few seconds later, Fury caught Wilder and put him down. Now, that shot he caught Wilder with, you see this like the perfect spot where Wilder was done after that. There was nothing else he could do. His equilibrium was gone the rest of the fight. When he caught him like right there by the head, by the ear, behind the head, by the ear. Now, do you all think that right there is what changed the fight? That was the end of the fight, really. How Wilder kept on from then on was just crazy. That he even had the strength to either keep going after that. But do you all think it's more possible that Fury can land that shot again, or that Wilder can land the right hand again?
I think
which one do you think is more likely to happen this third fight?
I can't speak on which one more likely to happen, but I think Wilder should try to hit him with the exact same shot in the top of the goddamn head behind that fucking ear. That's what I think.
You ain't man. You ain't gonna get that every single time. That's one of them shots. It's just like you get it, and then it's over.
If you swing like Marcos Maidana, you can hit people.
Yeah,
Facts.
But which one do you think is more likely to happen? All of y'all, I want all y'all to answer that. Which one do you think is more likely to happen? Wilder hit that land right hand, or for Fury to hit him again like that?
Definitely. If Wilder. I had to go, I go first. It would have to be Wilder's right hand. I don't know about that hitting him in the back of his head.
No, it wasn't the back. It was like on the side, like right there in the ear. Like when you hit him and it just mess up your whole equilibrium.
And that was
like right
that
there
was
in the
closer
ear
to the back of the head than it was to the side.
It was still close. But I think you got to take in consideration with the Wilder body. He didn't even look himself, man. You can look at his face expression. You can see a lot of that. I just don't know that type of shot happening unless Tyson Fury really is trying to plan for that type of shot. But no, I see Wilder's right hand happening before a shot like that. I just see the right hand landing. Can't make it short anyway.
Go ahead, World Rank, real quick.
Nah, I definitely think it's Wilder. I just think that Fury may be adjusting to his power, but Wilder will get his in. It's just the matter of what's the effect it's going to have on Fury, because he's going to land on him at some point in that fight.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like think, because in the second fight, I was mentioning earlier, like there were a couple of times when Wilder did land with the right hand. He landed the right hand late in the first round, pretty much near the end of the first round, and to an extent in the second round. It was just that at that particular time when Tyson Fury landed that shot, it was pretty much like coming off of a tie-up. So you kind of like seeing, okay, you have the tie-up, the referee breaks it up, and then Fury comes forward and he throws, it was like he threw the jab and then he came around with the right hand. But the way that Wilder reacted was that it seemed like he was trying to move away from it. And so when it was moving away from it, that's when he got caught and his equilibrium went down. And so it almost seemed like, it was, at the side and the back and everything like that. But yeah, it did kind of, take away something from Wilder, because he had never really been knocked down.
Yeah, that was the end of the fight right there. Everything that happened after that, the fight was already over.
Yeah, but and the thing about it is that whether he lost his equilibrium or not, by the time he got up, you kind of like seen from him that he was kind of frustrated that he was knocked down. Not to the point where it was like, okay, he got me and I got knocked down. It was just that the circumstances behind that, and that he kind of like looked at the referee and he was like, "What's up?" And then he kind of like, was a little bit frustrated and tried to get his bearings back, but it didn't quite work. And then that's when you're seeing the whole thing with his legs kind of, really being off and everything like that. So
I mean, when Fury knocked him down with a body shot, he was tripping all over the place. He was
tripping all over the place. But even before that, he almost got knocked down again, because remember, Fury had a little bit of a combination, and then Wilder was backing up and he had to like hold on to the ropes a little bit and taking steps back, because he almost went down again at that particular point.
I know what y'all talking about. That's when he had the egg weight in his glove, and then he had to scratch around the ear.
See, that's my thing. I think everybody, all sides, is really
when the eardrum had bust. That's what happened.
I'm telling you like this though. I'm confident going into this third fight that it's all Wilder.
Oh man! Oh goodness, man!
And Fury come in. You know what else I think too? I think Fury came in that.
Wait, hold on. Hold on, you were going off and on.
Fury, I don't think Fury would have been able to keep up that pace.
Oh, going off his front foot.
If that shot wouldn't happen in the 7.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to check in real quick. I'm gonna finish listening on the
all right.
On the YouTube.
All right, bet. Yeah, because the thing about it is that we got to see if Fury is going to continue to, fight, off his front foot and things like that, man. Because, who knows if, Fury wants to come in once again at 273 or 275 pounds, him talking about saying that he's going to come in at 300 this time or whatever it is. And I don't necessarily see that he's going to do that, so to speak. But it's just that you've seen like a lot of preparation coming from Deontay Wilder's camp in reference to this particular fight. And so, it kind of like seems like you're seeing more and more people kind of lean towards Wilder having the advantage in this upcoming fight. I was saying here, as far as this card on October 9th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got, Robert Helenius against Adam Kownacki in a rematch after Adam Kownacki got stopped at the Barclays Center. That was in March of 2020, man. That kind of like really had a lot of fans in a tizzy too, because Kownacki was a fan favorite, so to speak, especially after his fight with Chris Arreola, where they threw about 50,000 punches. You also have Efe Ajagba going up against Frank Sanchez, undefeated 15-0 Efe Ajagba, undefeated 18-0 Frank Sanchez. That's going to be a pretty key fight there in the heavyweight division. So you got 3 heavyweight fights there. One more heavyweight fight is the real big baby Jared Anderson going up against Vladimir Tereshkin. Both of those guys are undefeated as well. They say that we got, on the top ranked side, Edgar Berlanga is going to be fighting in there against Marcelo Caceres. They got Robeisy Ramirez in another fight. I don't know why it's almost like they love these Cuban fighters when he had these first few fights against Orlando Ruiz. You got Julian J. Rock Williams back after a good little while. He did have, a injury that took him out of the fight where he was supposed to be part of the Gervonta Tank Davis card against Mario Barrios, but he's going to be back in the ring against Vladimir Hernandez. You also got a previous guest on the Boxing Source YouTube channel, Bruce Shoo Shoo Carrington. He's going to have his first pro fight is going to be against Cesar Cantu. And I don't know, I'm going to be straight up, I don't know why, but it seems like they're going to have Rancis Barthélemy part of this card too. His opponent is the great TBA, but they plan on having Rances Barthélemy on this card. Yeah, I don't know why they're gonna have that, but either way, it is what it is. Kind of like interested to see what happens with that rematch between Adam Kalnacki and Robert Helenius. Like, Adam Kalnacki is a great action fighter, but he couldn't necessarily take those shots too well from Robert Helenius. So as long as Robert Helenius doesn't feel like he gets hurt from Adam Kalnacki, we might see the same result here in this particular rematch, man.
I got a one rebuttal to that.
All right, what's the rebuttal?
If he been sparring with Deontay Wilder, I'm almost positive his punch resistance ain't gonna be the same.
Oh, you mean Robert Helenius?
Yes.
You think that Deontay Wilder would fall in against Robert Helenius in sparring now?
You think he what now?
That Deontay Wilder win at Robert Helenius with full power.
No, but I still think that 70% power Deontay Wilder, will mess up people punch resistance if you getting hit by this dude most of the time. Just my thought.
Mike Grady, you make a good point. I ain't even think of that. But what I say about the rematch is rematches only happen for two reasons. First reason is it was a lot of money in the first fight and they run it back. Second reason is the wrong fighter won. So Kalnacki, as long as he stay on his feet, he winning this fight by hook or by crook. He might stop Helenius because of the point Mike made, but he winning this fight because there's no other reason for this rematch to happen. There's no real reason. There's no money in it because it's not the main event. So obviously the wrong person won. So they're gonna run it back to make sure the right person. They do that all the time. So I'm looking forward to Sanchez and Ajagba fight because, man, I'm in love with 50-50 fights. Anytime you get two, and I consider this like a 50-50 fight. And like when you get two people to put their O's on the line in this type of stage, and it's a heavyweight fight, I'm excited for that fight. Everything else, man, Big Baby, he gonna run through whoever that is because that dude, I seen him before, he trash. All the rest of them, Belingo, they gonna do all of them gonna do their things. It's gonna be knockouts and all that, but I'm excited for that job.
Yeah, the Ajagba and Frank Sanchez Foray fight. Yeah, that's gonna be a good little scrap there. But I'm gonna have something to add about that Kalnacki Helenius rematch here in a bit. I think Marcus wanted to chime in on those undercard fights.
Yeah, I actually like the undercards, man. I actually like the undercards. It reminds me a little bit. I don't know about y'all, but a old Don King type of undercard, man, where you get some of these fights. The rematch is what Robert Helenius. You nailed it on the head. Sometimes it's because of money or because the wrong person won. But you also got to give credit for them to actually go back and take those type of fights because sometimes the style is just all wrong. Sometimes these guys don't go back and take those rematches. The Jeff Horns and Manny Pacquiao, people could say that was controversy, whatever. But style-wise, it was just all wrong for Manny. Amir Khan, Prescott, knocked him out. He went another direction. He didn't ever went back and take that rematch, and he went on to make millions. So sometimes it's smart in the business-wise where you don't want to take those rematches. So I respect those two guys for actually stepping up and saying, hey, it is what it is. We're going to take a rematch. Robert, Jared Anderson, yeah, Big Baby, that's my guy, man. You already know Ohio. I think he's definitely going to win his fight. A lot of people wondering how long they're going to wait before they push him. I think I give him about 4 or 5 more fights before we really start pushing them because Joyce, they did it with Joyce and some of the other guys, man. They move on. So I give him about 4 or 5 more fights, and he can probably get all those next year before they really start pushing him. So I give him a year or two and really start having him up there because he's definitely got the goods. Who else? J-Rock. I see J-Rock on there. I'm happy to see him, man. I'm definitely ready to see how he look. I'm going to be interested. I don't know if they're going to have those televised. Did they even say about all the ones that they're going to have televised? Some of them I don't know if they'll be televised unless we go watch them. Unless you got to go to the fight.
ESPN will have probably the ESPN and Fox will have the J Rock and Berlanga fights at the very least. The pay-per-view portion is the Jared Anderson. They're gonna keep that the same. The Jared Anderson, all heavyweights. The Anderson, the Ajagba, Sanchez, Helenius, Kalnaki, and Fury Wilder. That's gonna stay as the pay-per-view. But at the very least, they're gonna have the J Rock fight, and the Berlanga fight on Fox and ESPN. Basically, so maybe we see. Man, I hope they don't put Francis Bartholomew on television. If they put him on television, man, I would be so.
Hey, Rex was my guy, man. You know, he been supporting me for a long. That's my guy. But they was actually sending me hitting me up to see if I had anybody for him. It was kind of crazy. I was like, what? I didn't even know he was right on the card. So I got offers to see if I can help get him a fight.
Yeah, that was a late ad. I was like, wait, what? Francis Bartholomew on this card? Where did this come from? You know what I'm saying?
I did not know that until I started seeing little asking me if I could find somebody for him and help. And I was like, what? Francis? Okay. All right, but okay. But yeah, that was definitely a throne.
F.A. Ajagba is long overdue for getting exposed. It's already happened a little bit, but I think he's long overdue for getting knocked out because he get touched way too easy, way too soon. And, you know, if you get hit in the heavyweights, everybody's affected. So I think this might be the one where Sanchez touches him sooner. If Sanchez is the guy who I think he is, he has pretty decent, like he can at least throw punches. As long as you have an okay punch selection, you're gonna be able to touch F.A. Ajagba. I think this is long overdue for him to get exposed.
I think he already has. I mean, the couple of fights ago, I think he didn't got dropped a couple times, man, and definitely from sparring, Big Baby had fun with F.A., man.
I'm saying knocked out, exposed. Yeah, you're right. He didn't got. We know who he is, but I'm saying it's long overdue for him to get knocked out and not recover from getting touched so early, so quickly.
You know me, I'm big on boosting them up and then knocking them down when they at the high level. I have no problem with him winning some, but this is definitely a competitive fight. Don't get me wrong. But I love I'm one of those guys, boost those guys up so my guy can knock them down. We're gonna get all the credit we can. Edgar Berlanga is another one. I think he's a good fighter, but I also think they're matching him up very carefully, and that's good in a way, you know. Because we got guys that went at 168 that I would love for him to fight, definitely from the Ohio area, that can really that can expose some of the things that he does. Edgar does not, like I said, he has not fought nobody that really come forward, that goes in the kitchen with him. That's just he's getting his respect because of this punching power and stuff. But once you get in there and start really pushing and forcing that guy back, I've seen it in sparring. Listen, it's definitely it's a whole nother ball game. We have a prospect out of Cleveland, Ohio, Charles Conwell, who fought him in the amateurs, and he dominated Edgar Berlanga.
Yeah,
he dominated that guy. And I know it was years ago, and I know I don't really push amateurs too much, but it was just that Charles was pushing that guy back and coming forward. He actually dropped him a couple times too, but the point I'm making is I still like seeing some of these fighters build, make the money, get as much as you can, you know, finesse the system. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about finessing, you know. I mean, they do it all the time, you know what I mean? Finesse as much, but I don't think he can definitely be a good fighter and become something great too on top of that, but he has some things he has to work on. I like him I'm a fan of him though, to be honest. I'm a fan of him. So I like the way they're moving him though.
Yeah, they got to match them up, correctly because I mean they could really get something for him, But like you say, you got a few guys. You got like the Charles Conwells and a few other guys out there from the state of Ohio that could, definitely that would definitely give Berlanga a good run. And I've heard, of course, from YSM over in Philly that they definitely had a few guys over there in Philly that would give him a run. I've been over to Bosie's gym, and that guy Jesse Hart said, "Yo, I'll go down there at 168 and definitely give him some work." He's been wanting that particular fight for months to fight Edgar Berlanga, and they haven't, basically, tried to get that done. And the thing with Efe Ajagba, man, I know that, my guy there, Lefty, was talking about him getting knocked down a couple of times and running the top rank. But you did mention the thing there with the real big baby Jared Anderson. And on multiple occasions in camp, Jared Anderson has been getting the better of Efe Ajagba. And this has been happening for months. Even when they were part of the same card and one of those top ranked cards where Jared Anderson was fighting and then Efe Ajagba was a couple of fights after, and they were in camp together and Jared was giving them work. And the same thing was happening when it was coming up to this particular fight when it was originally scheduled. But Jared Anderson definitely is a guy that's been, really building up there, ever since the thing with the amateurs. And I've talked with, Coach Derry a whole bunch of times, man. And he says yo, with that type, and we talk about the whole thing about having that connection with your trainer and stuff like that. Like Derry Riley, Coach Derry has been with Jared Anderson since he was 8 years old, and to have that type of connection for so many years, and to see him still develop as a heavyweight fighter, and it'll be about 4 or 5 more fights, but after that, he's gonna be up there.
You know what? Also,
Yeah.
careful when you're sparring guys like FA and elite level, guys that's trying to be to the elite level, because sometimes that can mess up your fights against them. That definitely can. I've seen it happen so many times. We have a guy, I don't know if y'all remember, it was a guy named Will Knockout Clemens. He was fighting out of TMT gym. The man has sparred everybody from Floyd Mayweather, Thomas Delorme, Sean Porter. I mean, he had Triple G and took him into the camp. He sparred so many people that eventually it became hard for him to get fights because of his experience. No different than Darnell Boone out of Youngstown, Ohio, who but he fought so many people that once people started to take notice who he was and the guys he beat, the Adonis Stevensons, Willie Monroe's, knocked Andre Ward down, they started to ask for a little bit more money. And he had over 20 losses. It's like, wow. So sometimes you have to be careful who you spar with and going in with, especially if it's a guy that you could possibly fight. Klitschko did the same thing. He fought AJ and sparred AJ and Wilder, but out of those two, he picked AJ to fight. So you just got to be careful with that. I just wanted to point that out, man. You can't mess with the bag sometimes. You don't want them to let them know, but he has been doing that with FA, and that means FA might not really want to fight him, or he might ask for more money than what Jared is actually worth if they do come to matching up with each other.
Well, I mean, it's gonna have to come to that particular point in some shape, form, or fashion, because Top Rank does have a few heavyweights, but they're kind of running. They're kind of running out of heavyweights to match up. You got like a Tony Yoka that's there. You got Efe Ajagba. You got the Jared Andersons and things like that. You got who was it? They had Carlos Takam also in their thing, and a few other guys that are like either at heavyweight or they're whatever this bridgeweight thing is that they got going on. But Top Rank has a few heavyweights, but yeah, I don't see where they're going to eventually match up Jared Anderson and Efe Ajagba, unless if they say that, like, say for example, if Efe Ajagba loses there to Frank Sanchez, and that he may be on his way down, and Jared is on his way up. then maybe you'll see it happen sometime next year. So we might see that. I did have, Lefty that came in and now he's listed. He did drop the thing in there for Berlanga, and he mentioned the name of somebody that really wanted to fight Edgar Berlanga for almost a year and a half, especially when they kind of like shot up Edgar Berlanga up the WBO ranks, aka Rep Bob Orders, or whatever they call it, the World Bob Organization. Oops, my bad. But yeah, Steve Nelson, man, King Steve Nelson definitely wants to fight Edgar Berlanga. And he's been, chomping at the bit for that fight. I know that he did have like some type of leg injury that he was, trying to rehab from, but he might be, back in full strength. So yeah, I definitely want to see what happens there with Steve Nelson. Actually, he might be part of that card with Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter, since that's a top ranked card, man. So we might end up seeing Steven Nelson as part of that.
No, he still ain't off his injury yet. I actually talked to Stevie not too long ago because I actually matched him up with a prospect that we got out of Cleveland named Isaiah Sting, who fought on Showtime in July on the 23rd. But yeah, I actually had a little fantasy matchup. Isaiah's still young though. He still need a couple more fights, but Nelson was going in, but he actually told me that he was actually hurt. So that's when I found out.
Okay. Yeah, Lefty just said there that he's still dealing with the Achilles, so he said he'll be back, by January. So it'll be a few more months before we see King Steve back there in the ring there. So that kind of like fills out everything that's going on with that fight card on October 9th, man. That's gonna be a lot for people to look for, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of like missing an event or a weekend that is kind of like highly anticipated down in South Florida, but that's a whole nother story. But I'll definitely be looking forward to this fight card. But I wanted to like get something in here, I guess, before we drop off a little bit. I mean, we still had like a lot of news that we were going to cover, but one thing I gotta get in, man, freaking Teofimo Lopez, man. Like, man, it's all going downhill. A couple days ago, we found out, or they released the quote unquote news that we, weren't necessarily surprised about, that his fight with George Kambosos Jr. was scheduled for October 4th, tomorrow. That was supposed to be at the theater in Madison Square Garden. They had, scrapped it. It was canceled. They were thinking about having it on October 16th. But now we got news that Triller said, you know what, man? Screw this fight. We ain't gonna hold it. We won the bid. I think Lefty want to join back in on this one. Hey, Lefty, you got some on this, man, because all this stuff, with Teofimo Lopez, man, I can't believe it, man. I just, it just went all downhill. Triller said they done spent about $9 or $10 million trying to get this fight done, and now they say they're gonna relinquish it. And it's supposed to go to the second place winner, which was Matchroom. And now we get like reports about the petitioning the IBF to remove George Kambosos as the mandatory challenger. I'm like, it's a whole mess, man. It's an entire mess. Man, I think at one point we kind of said, like, you know what? We might as well just have Teofimo Lopez give up that IBF belt. And now he's saying that, he wants to have a catchweight fight with the real undisputed champion at 140 pounds, Josh Taylor. He wants to have a catchweight bout with Josh Taylor. I'm like, man, this is just a mess. But in a way, I'm not surprised with Teofimo Lopez because even after he beat Vasilomachenko, his dad said that they weren't going to be at 135 pounds, that they wanted to go up to 140 right after that particular fight. And so all this stuff that's been going on, whatever, what happened in June when the fight was originally scheduled, and he didn't make it due to COVID, supposedly. But we know what really went down. So now here we are, and it's like I was not surprised one bit that they were not going to go forward with this fight on October 4th. And it doesn't look like they're not going forward with it. That was supposed to be rescheduled for the October 16th. And so with that being said, that's the deadline for the IBF. So it should just go ahead and relinquish that IBF belt. Why not? Just go ahead and say, you know what? Screw it. I'm not gonna, defend the title against George Kambosos. Just give it up and move on. It's just crazy though, man. Anybody got any reaction to all this mess with Teofimo Lopez?
I can go first. It don't matter.
All right.
I think it's hilarious, to be honest. I actually told people that I didn't think this fight was going to actually happen because I felt like Thriller overbid. I hate saying that when it comes to fighters. Lopez and his team, they finessed. They actually got them to pay more money than they actually, wanted to. It was more like, they got it off, and what happened was they was trying to sell themselves as stars or superstars. That's what Lopez was trying to do. And it just wasn't. He beat Lomachenko, and I tell people all the time, you can have 4 belts, you can have 3 belts. It does not make you a star. And I think he's getting a reality check on that. He's so caught up with holding these belts, which he should have just let that belt go. He's so caught up with holding these belts, thinking, hey, man, if I had these belts, it's going to just be way more money. I'm just going to be this super. No, Floyd has showed you that. I mean, it's a blueprint. Something that you got to be able to try to make the bigger fights. And that fight with Kambosos just wasn't that big. It wasn't even worth $6 million. It just wasn't. Not even 2, to be honest. And he's getting a reality check right now when it comes to that. Now he's talking about fight. Did you just say he said catch weight with Josh Taylor? Like, why would Josh want to fight you in a catch weight? Just come to 140. Like, that makes no sense to me that he's undisputed and he got to fight you in a catch weight. You need him in a way. And then these belts on top of that, the franchise, you going around calling yourself undisputed. Come on, man. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, come on. You're not undisputed. The hardcores, the real people who's in this game know that you're not undisputed. But that falls on the sanctioning bodies too. But yeah, that's my take on that, man. I think that he has to go and start trying to get some real fights and trying to fight to become a star. You got to fight some of these guys. You just don't have the fan base right now.
Yep. And you know what? That Kambosos fight would have been a good.
Oh, you jumping back in and out there, Lefty. Yeah, you were saying something there.
Huh?
Yeah,
go
ahead.
On ESPN, more exposure, and you good. And then you'll be going back into the Loma rematch around this time. He really should be rematching Loma right now. If they didn't have no plan, like you said with the belts, not even the belts. They also overestimated him and his father overestimated how big beating Vasil Lomachenko would be. He thought he would get all the fans and he got the adoration, but he thought he would get a whole bunch of fans and people are willing to. When Vasil Lomachenko ain't that big of he's a good draw as far as boxing, but ain't nobody paying a pay-per-view to see him fight. But he thought just by winning all those belts and by beating Lomachenko, he's automatically a star. Like you said, it don't go like that. Floyd had to fight years and years and years. He also had the best fighter. The fighter that he fought on pay-per-view, Gotti, wasn't even one of the best fighters he had beat at that time. You know what I'm saying? You got to fight the right guys, the right fight, and staying active is important, especially on ESPN, man. If I was one of these young guys, and my promoter was on ESPN, nigga, I would be on ESPN. I would be on First Take. I'd be on Second Take. I'd be on Cold Pizza. I'd be all over there. They'd get tired of seeing my face on ESPN.
Facts.
Yeah, and Lefty had a great point there in reference to Vasily Lomachenko, man. Like, boxing media was giving him all this praise. Oh, he's the best pound for pound fighter. Oh, he has so much skills. Oh, he can do this and that. But when it came to getting butts in the seats, he couldn't necessarily do that or get it to where people were paying top dollar to see him. It had to take, him going out to, the UK when he fought Luke Campbell for him to have like a good showing of, people going out there to see him. And on the flip side, Teofimo Lopez thought he had the same thing when he was doing this thing over in MSG, being part of, a co-feature or, opening up for Heisman Trophy, presentation day or whatnot, and then they give out the Heisman Trophy, and then they put him on against somebody that doesn't really have much of a shot against him, and that he thought he got enough momentum for people to actually say, hey, I'm interested in Teofimo Lopez. But after fighting and beating Vasily Lomachenko, he didn't necessarily get it. And the way that they kind of like handled stuff immediately after the fight really kind of turned some people off within the sport of boxing. But to go on to what, Marcus is saying here in reference to, him being a draw and like that, one, he wasn't necessarily a draw like that. And then two, the way that Triller kind of handled it was like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bid on this particular fight. And Teofimo Lopez did kind of like set him up in a sense, but Triller and the representatives that they had opened the door because the manager for George Kambosos pretty much said that he wanted to have that fight over in Australia from the jump. He said that in December of that year that, that Teofimo Lopez got those titles. So when you have that idea that, oh, they're going to do what? They're going to pay me what? In order to fight where? Even though he didn't really want to fight there, but at least he knew that these guys were willing to pay much more money than he was worth. So he kind of like took his chance on that. And initially he thought he could win, but what they said from the beginning still holds true right now. He cannot get down to 135 pounds. I just don't see it. That's why you see him talking about fighting, Josh Taylor. He can't get down to 135 pounds. And so with that being said, as far as like this fight with George Kambosos, I don't see it happening. And we might not see Teofimo Lopez in the ring until 2022. Don't be surprised if that's the case. Because he could have had a fight against George Kambosos already, one, or two, he could have had a fight with Devin Haney, and it still didn't happen. So now he's still on the shelf, and it's not looking really good there for Teofimo Lopez. Want to bring in more guests in the conversation if they could jump in. He got like little feedback though going on, man. Brother Troy, what's happening? What's going on?
You know what? I'm gonna switch to my tablet because I can hear the little feedback myself. Can you still hear the feedback?
Nah, I'm gonna just be on mute when you speak.
You good?
I'm good. Okay, yeah. I was talking to somebody, another group about this, and I said the theme song, for Tio's career right now is the Thriller's gone, baby. The Thriller's gone away, baby. Come on, man. I mean, it's been over a year now or something that he's won that title, and he should have got a rematch with Lomo, right? After that, he should have took on Haney and did some other things, just to establish establish his name even more. But what he's done is amount to absolutely jacking shit, nothing. So the thrill is gone now. That's a waste of an opportunity. Now I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, man. I guess you're right. You hit him with a little bit of a Teddy Pendergrass or something. The thrill is gone, baby. So, man, because
that's BB King, man. Teddy Penn, that's BB King.
I'm about to say, don't disrespect BB King like that.
I know, right? But still. But you gotta know, man. Troy be hitting folks with hitting these shots, man, with a Barry White Teddy Pendergrass. That's how he do sometimes, man. But yeah, man, it's gonna be bad there with Tio because he's gonna end up having that IBF title stripped, and then still after that, like Troy said, he could have, whether he wanted the rematch or not, he could have went ahead and got a rematch with Lomachenko, beat him again, and then went on to face Devin Haney, where at this point right now, the fighter in the lightweight division that's getting the most money, pretty much on average, is Devin Haney. I mean,
where does Tio go from now? Now? What's his next move? Does he wait for Matchroom to decide or Top Rank to decide and defend the belt? Does he drop it, move up to 140? What does he do from here? Or does he go straight into a Lomachenko rematch? Where does he go from here?
It's definitely moving to 140.
Yeah.
There's nothing to gain in the Lomo rematch. There's nothing to gain in terms of belts or anything. They're not going to take fights just for the sake of, if fans want to see the rematch or he deserve it or whatever. They're going to go the least resistance and the most money, and it's the 140.
140 for who though? I think he'll make pretty good money in the Lomo rematch. Now that they could have audiences, and they might even try to put it on pay-per-view, to be honest with you.
I know he should go to 140 and fight Julius Ndungo. Get another undisputed title.
You won't let it go, man.
No, I won't. I'm not gonna add my negative comments to this one on Teofimo, but does anybody really care? That's my curiosity. Like what he does.
I mean, I care because he's an exciting fighter. He's one of the best. He's one of the best.
I do,
and I want to see him fight the other best. You know what I'm saying? I don't like this shit that he's been out damn near over a year now. It's bullshit.
People can learn by watching him. You can't think you're bigger than what you really are, and you start sounding crazy when your numbers haven't even backed it up. Clarissa Shields just done this. She just talked about Jake Paul and talked about she would never fight on his undercard because she's a two-time, undisputed and her 2 medals. I get all that, but you fighting in MMA, sister. I rock with you, but it's a reason why you fighting in MMA. You're not making the money you're supposed to be doing in boxing. It's not resonating.
I give the perfect example of that, and I tell people this all the time. The perfect example is look at the careers of
hold up.
Sometimes you can finesse the system. See, Lopez almost got Thriller. You remember when Rockefeller came in, they was throwing money. They ended up getting finesse because they realized these fighters wasn't fighting each other. They were just paying money. The Zone did the same exact thing. The Zone was just throwing money. Triple G and Canelo still hasn't fought. Dimitri Andredes hasn't fought anybody, but they smile and go into the bank every day.
Yep.
So eventually these guys are going to wake up and be like, you know what? It's time for us to start getting our money back. See, it was different when Don King was back there. People was talking about him robbing fighters, but guess what? He was the only A-side, and them fighters was fighting each other. We're not getting the fights we want to see, but these guys want the money, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. But the
I want to jump in here real quick. That feedback. Damn. Okay. I want to jump in here real quick and say something about Shields. Shields made that comment because she doesn't view them as real boxers or real combat sports. What she's doing in the MMA is a real combat sports, and she's really trying to establish something and make history. You can make money with the Paul brothers, but you'll never gain the respect. And that's what she's building. I don't see anything wrong with what she said at all.
You don't think Montana? You don't think it was good for Montana Love? You don't think it was good for Serrano, who's been fighting, who's one of the best female fighters out there, but she's been fighting in relative obscurity and even had to do MMA herself.
Other than money, how's it good?
Because she got more. She got paid more than she's ever been paid before, and number two, she got more exposure than she's ever gotten before. And Montana Love too. How's that not good? I don't understand. I don't understand.
She got more money, but nobody still knows who she is. I mean, listen. Hold up. Now let me finish my.
And a lot more people know her now than knew her before Jake Paul.
Okay. Let me finish. Right.
Everybody's talking about Montana Love needs to fight the top at 140. The same thing with him.
Let me finish. Right. There's exposure that actually works, and there's exposure just that's a big splash for that moment. I can listen. They sell a bunch of tickets to a bunch of little teeny boppers and people that follow them, but those aren't really boxing fans and people that are gonna move you along in boxing.
Did you go
real exposure? Real exposure gets you. You gonna let me finish? I mean, you gotta let me finish. Let me finish, man.
It was not teeny boppers at that fight.
Hold on,
I don't think you're getting my point. There's this saying. There's a saying about money. You got good money and you got bad money. All money ain't good, man. Just like with all exposure ain't good.
Stay away from the teeny bopper money. That's what he's telling you.
Right. Because if you start off playing the buffoon, okay, listen, right. If you start off playing the buffoon or the villain, like Floyd Mayweather chose to do, then you have to follow that through, or you could be somebody else, and just be true to yourself, like an Andre Ward, and he's respected, and he left the sport as he chose to leave the sport. And people know who he is, and he's going into the Hall of Fame, man. It's just two different paths that people want to take in the sport. And I got a hell of a lot of respect for Shields. I do.
Okay, but but this is what I still don't. You said it was teeny boppers. That's teeny bopper, man. But that wasn't who bought it. Who was at the fight? Ohio Runs Boxing. Where you at? What city you in?
I'm in Baltimore, man.
No, I'm talking about Ohio Runs Boxing. Where you at? You in Cleveland?
Marcus.
Okay, I'm in Cincinnati. I know people that went to the fight. It was not a teeny boppers fight. It was boxing fan fight. So that's just a falsehood that you say. She got exposed to the boxing fan and sports fans. Now more people know who she is. She's also signed with him, and she's Montana Love. Like I said, now people are talking about him fighting the top at 140. How is that bad for him? He had already fought, I think, twice this year. Nobody even knew about it. But now he fought on his undercard against a legit fighter. Everybody on the undercard fought against other legit boxers. Jake Paul was the one that he fought against a UFC, which is a combat sports guy. It wasn't a circus sideshow like people are trying to play it out to be.
Facts. I agree. I actually seen Montana.
I don't see anything. I don't see nothing wrong with getting people exposure. Legit boxers and legit fighters getting exposure and getting them paid. There's nothing wrong with what went on with that card. And everybody was home happy. My man that went said it was he said that was one of the best atmospheres he's been to in a boxing match in a long time. He hadn't been to a boxing match like that in a long time. Those was sports fans, not teeny boxers.
To say the truth, this young lady you're talking about could still walk the streets and nobody will know who she is. Even after she got all that exposure.
She's been fighting under a quote unquote legit boxing promoter her whole career, and nobody knew who she was. Right.
Okay, so I don't think that's going to change with Jake Paul. How's that going to change with Jake Paul?
And she's about to get this Katie Taylor fight, the fight that the quote unquote legit boxing promoter couldn't get her.
Okay, you're not answering the question. How's that going to get her the exposure that she wants? She got the fight, yes, but how's that going to get her? How's that going to get her name established?
Okay, so she's been trying to get this Katie Taylor fight for years. They haven't been able to do it. So when she gets to the Katie Taylor fight, then what's going to be the next excuse? When Jake Paul, she's signed with Jake Paul now. So him and Eddie Hearn to get the Katie Taylor fight.
The only thing that's different over there,
under a legit boxing promoter.
You got to catch your breath. Listen, man. The only thing that's different over there with Jake Paul and them is that they have people that are willing to shell money out based on their numbers. That's the only difference. When you with these other companies, these Eddie Hearns and all these promoters, they're not willing to do that for the female boxers. So, I got to give them respect for that. But other than that, I don't think that's going to change the tempo of her status at all. She's going to make a whole. She's going to make more money, sure, and she might get the fights that she wants, and that'll be great for her and great for her career. But is she going to be remembered? I don't think so.
I mean, you gotta look at it from females boxing too. You gotta understand it's female boxing, guys. Layla Ali is one of the best, but
It was some male boxers on there too, and people didn't know who they were. Like the Du Bois, that's his name, the cat from England. Didn't he fight on the?
Yeah, Daniel Dubois. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
Didn't he fight on the card?
Who?
Yeah,
Who is that?
Daniel Du Bois, he fought on the undercard. You also got to remember the Charlo brothers actually said they would love to fight on Jake Paul's undercard because they understand the audience that attracts. You can actually get somebody, and I'm gonna tell you, Jake Paul actually commented on my social media platform on IG, and I got instantly over 800 followers just by commenting.
I like to ask a question since you brought up the Charlo brothers. Don't they have their own promotional company? Aren't they their own bosses? Why would they want to go be under somebody else? Lions Only or Lyle, whatever the hell it is.
No, you could do a co-promotion like Dubois and Tommy Fury are promoted by Frank Warren, and they fought on the card, but their particular matches were Frank Warren card. A lot of these boxing so-called promoters like Lou DiBella, they're nothing really but deal brokers. They broker deal. They sell their fighters to fight on other people's cards.
I have yet to see a card that's been promoted by the Charlo brothers. Has anybody seen a card promoted by them?
I mean, that's not what they name next to it.
No, that's not what necessarily they do because they don't really have like a like so to speak, like a DeBella Entertainment or somebody like who Clarissa Shields is under. Like they don't really have that type of promotional company where they have signed fighters as of yet.
No,
but
Jamal,
they do have that license.
They did one like a year and a half ago before the pandemic. They did do one. It was on YouTube in Houston.
Houston. Oh, okay. So yeah. So if it was like someone under their like area, yeah, I could see that. But if they get to the point where they'll be able to have more fighters be part of cards that'll be on Showtime or actually Showtime because that's where they basically fight at. Then that's one thing. But like they were mentioning earlier, when you have somebody like Fury and Daniel Dubois that's under Queensberry Promotions, you can have co-promotional cards that basically happen at that point. And you have it here with this Wilder Fury. It's going to be Top Rank and PBC under Tom Brown, TGB Promotions, so to speak. So you have guys from TGB Promotions fighting. You have guys from Top Rank fighting. They're all part of the same card. So you have the same thing happening with the thing with Jake Paul is they have the license, that they have the money, that they could go through the proper boxing commissions and have everything approved. Then they get the fighters that they want to see if they're going to be involved. And if they're, down with it, then they could go ahead and do it. Now, the thing with the Charlos is, given their price tag, maybe it would be a little bit more expensive for them to be part of those type of cards or, having those type of fights. But if they're able to work with Jake Paul, then why not,
I always ask this question. How in the hell did people like Ali sell himself so well without social media? You want to know how? It's simple math. It's the show. He gave a show, and when it was time for a fight, he showed and proved. He told you, I'm gonna knock this guy out in round 4, 5, 6, 7. They all will fall in the round that I call. It's part show and it's part ability, and then that's how you sell yourself. That's what a lot of these cats are missing. They don't really need these cats over here. All they have to do is put together a game plan that works for them, sell it, and make it work for them. Why do you always have to go under somebody else?
No,
to a certain extent, though. But during Ali Day, you only had 3 TV channels. You had major,
but you still had the whole world that knew him. You still had the entire world that knew Ali, though.
But that's part of it, though, because it wasn't that many exposures to it. Like he said, it was only certain amount of channels. So the
No, but the
platform.
whole world knew
And
him.
then the New
The
York
whole
Times
world.
had a boxing writer on staff. The biggest newspapers in the country had boxing writers on staff. Everybody was watching and reading the same thing. So
Right,
if
right.
New York Times
Okay.
is talking about Ali, ABC, NBC, and CBS is talking about Ali, you don't have, it's a lot more things to take away people's attention and confuse
That
people's
I'm
attention.
it
the
was still
greatest
I
of
agree
all
football.
with you.
Listen,
No,
time.
I agree with you. These fighters do need to be a
hold
little
up a
bit
second now.
more
It
active,
was still
more talented.
listen. It was still football. It was still baseball. It was still basketball. It was still NASCAR. It was everything that there is. It was everything there is today, minus the social media aspect of it. So no, that ain't an excuse. It's just that nobody has a plan. That's the reason why they
Okay, let
coming
me
off
give you an
right.
example. MASH, the TV show. I think their final episode did like 20 million or something like that, 20, 30 million. You'll never get that now on a TV show because
Why not?
people don't watch TV like that anymore. Also, the only show that even comes close to those older ratings are the Super Bowl. That's the only show where people actually sit down and watch together. It's just a different. You got Twitter, you got social media, like you were saying, NASCAR, football. Shit, they didn't have soccer. They also didn't
Yes,
have.
yes, they did.
No,
Soccer
I'm talking
was
about
around.
soccer being shown in America. I'm talking about it wasn't like that like it is now in America.
Pele was huge. Yes, soccer was in America. Soccer was in America.
They didn't have it. It wasn't to that point that it
Yeah,
is now.
but we're talking
You also
about
have
the 60s,
what's that
the
all these kids
60s.
are into now? What's these kids into now? That cartoon shit they into now?
Oh, what
I don't know nothing about the cartoon, but my point is this.
Anime.
Right,
That shit is bigger
right, my point
than
is
boxing.
right, but my point is this: anything that's shown on TV, you can stream on social media. So you actually have more options and more ways to sell yourself, and nobody's selling themselves. There's always an excuse about you have too many ways to sell yourself. That's the biggest bunch of garbage I ever heard. If you have too many avenues, what do you mean you have too many avenues to sell yourself?
You don't have to. I mean, I agree. It should sell itself more. I'm just saying why it was so much easier for like Ali to dominate because everybody was talking about it. Every single person, NBC, ABC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post. One thing they were talking about, everybody was talking about. Word now is you got Twitter, you got TikTok, you got Facebook,
Right, which means you have more ways to sell yourself.
But you also have more options of bringing the same stuff.
Hold on.
You got to take in consideration that controversy sell too. He was in jail. He didn't want to fight for our country. There was stuff that he went known for.
It's the same thing today. These dudes sell their rap albums to get arrested a week before the album comes out.
Hold on. And that's what you talking about fighters. It was heavyweights. Heavyweights was always superior boxing. You get these smaller weight guys.
Listen,
Develop.
it's a plan. It's a plan and an image, and you cultivate it, and you go ahead and market and push it, and that's how you sell. None of these dudes.
But at the same time, you just said about Jake Paul and people fighting on that's exposure too. Floyd Mayweather went and got Justin Bieber. He probably don't even listen to his music, but he was smart enough to know that if he got connected to Justin Bieber, who was one of the hottest singers at the time, he was selling out within 2 hours. Go look at the results.
I got a question for him.
He knew how to connect himself to people.
I got a question for him.
All right, Mike.
So you think Lomachenko? Do you think Top Rank had a plan for Lomachenko in terms of selling him to the audience at large?
I'm sure they did.
Do you think, in terms of ESPN exposure of Lomachenko, that in terms of other fighters, let's compare him to, let's say, even black fighters in his division, he got a lot more exposure, a lot more propaganda, even than other fighters with complementary.
Yes. To answer your question before, yes.
Thank you. I was trying to find the words. Do you think it mattered?
Overall, no. But you have to look at it this. Let me finish. You have to look at it this way. You got this older gentleman that's at the helm. I don't know if he's listening to the younger voices in the room, and he could only take you so far based on what he's done. But you also have to factor in what's going on today. And if you don't listen to the voices from today and all you got is work, the stuff that worked from yesterday, then you're only going to go so far. Because if you look at his history, he lost Oscar, he lost Floyd, lost Pacquiao, he was about to lose Crawford. All them guys went on to do great things, man. So that tells you maybe he's just an overbearing guy that doesn't listen to anybody else,
So
and
I
he's still
agree.
stuck in he's still stuck in his all his success from yesterday. But it's 2021, so you have to listen to these new voices. You have to do that.
I agree if we talking about him specifically, but you could take him and apply to someone else. All I'm saying is, if you take Lomachenko's case and then let's say apply it to the girl Clarissa Shields, the reason why the platforms of Jake Paul and MMA now are profitable or a good idea because the audience that she would have never even been exposed to, even if they are teeny boppers and or the MMA, she gonna fight a few fights in MMA and then she gonna get choked out. But please believe, once she start fighting, people may be more prone to follow her fights in boxing. So now she gonna get that cross audience if she happens to do well and win a few more fights, knock a few more people out. That would never happen under many circumstances, whether it's Lomachenko, whether it's Clarissa Shields. It's only a select few that sort of happens to, and it's just a few things that goes in their favor. All I'm saying, I know you're saying that it's like there are so many avenues, but even with those so many avenues, it's so many ways to take your attention as well.
Yeah. And plus, boxing promoters are event promoters. They promote your fight. They promote your event. I don't understand why a lot of these boxers don't have their own separate PR to promote their brand. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. And also it still comes back on the boxer to say, well, this is my plan. This is how I want to handle my career. This is how I think we should move. If you just sit there and you and follow what everybody else says, but you don't follow that voice in your soul, and guess what? You're always gonna fall. And it just amazes me that in 2021, I keep hearing all these excuses about why we can't do something. When you have, listen, if there's Twitter and every other blasted thing on social media, which I may not know and all that, use it to your advantage. But the first thing you have to do is come up with a plan. Because I was always taught, if you don't plan, if you fail to have a plan, then you plan to fail. Period. It don't matter who your damn promoter is. You have to have a plan. You know you better than anybody else.
Troy,
Do you want to wear a dress? No, you do not. So don't have them put you in a dress. Are you a tough guy? Then stop playing a tough guy and be you. You have to have a plan.
Troy, you also got to think about too. Some fighters don't like those type of responsibilities. They like being told what to do. Terrence Crawford is a guy who don't care about.
We don't know that. We don't know
I
that
know.
about Terrence Crawford.
Terrence Crawford is. They asked Terrence plenty of times that he wanted his own promotional company, and he said no. Please let me finish, because I know plenty of fighters on the inside who want to trust people, who don't like, who's not good at what's that, multitasking, don't want to worry about this. They want to get somebody to worry about. They want to trust certain people. They just want to fight. You can't make a person change their mindset and be like, hey, it's time for you to do this. Only certain fighters is going to do that. You don't have, if Devin Haney is smart in business wise with what he has done, he hasn't really signed with nobody, but yet he hasn't getting the fights he's deserved to. So everybody is looking at everybody and seeing how they move differently. And some don't want to take that risk. So it's like you can be a great fighter and still not become a superstar. It's okay. Andre Ward, Guillermo Rigondeaux, Laura, these are great fighters. They will never be superstars. It's okay. It's okay.
That's like how everybody somebody get your LLC. Everybody can't be business owners. Some people got to work for the business. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
I was gonna just add in here real quick with what Troy is saying about having a promoter but also doing your own thing. One fighter told me that in this business you have to be an independent contractor of some sort, because you got to be able to manage your own, because it's almost like your own business, like Lefty said, the LLC, to where you could work with a promoter, but you got to watch yourself to say that you get the best deal out of what you're doing in a fight or anything like that. So either you're able to get the most money out of it, or you're able to get the amount of attention needed so that when you do fight, that the demand is there for you to get the money that you desire to get. So, like, in a sense, where Troy is talking about using the whole thing with social media, and you have somebody like a Ryan Garcia or a Devin Haney or a Gervonta Tank Davis, they kind of like use that social media element to build their brand, to build the attention towards them, and that more boxers may have to do that in a sense in order for them to get the attention needed for them to have the money that they desire. But sometimes, like, you know, what Marcus said, sometimes some of these fighters don't even want to go through all of that. They just want to fight. And it's almost like a catch-22 in a sense with some of this with the sport of boxing, because yeah, you need the attention. Yeah, it's a sport, but like World Rank says, a lot of times boxing is a business, and you got to be able to understand both in order to be successful in the financial side and in the ring. And it's a tough thing to juggle. I mean, it's been happening for a long time, but sometimes it's very tough for people.
I just don't like the mindset. If you're not big like Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather, you're a failure. That's crazy to me. There's other guys. You can be a great fighter. Sean Porter would never ever be a superstar. He done fought some of the best names on his resume. He is who he is. Jamel Herring, he is who he is. No matter who.
Dillian White, Bernard Hopkins.
But you know what? You just named two guys that exceeded what you would think for them to be as stars. They'll never make that superstar level, but those two guys are active on social media. Sean Porter, if you know that Sean Porter has been doing all the heavy lifting for the upcoming pay-per-view.
Sean Porter doing probably doing a podcast right now, guys.
Yeah, those are guys.
Yeah, but he did the same thing in his Spence fight too, didn't he? He did the same thing. Yes, he did. Yep. That's his thing. But
he gets more out of what you know what I'm saying? He gets more out of what he should get just by his hard work, by his keep. The same with his boxing style. He gets more out of it just by working hard, just by grinding, just by being out here.
Can I say a comment with James real quick? To the point, James. Remember you talking mess about Deontay Wilder, about why is he not as big as he should be about 2 years ago? Remember you saying that, James?
Well, not just me. It was like a lot of people saying it at that time.
A lot of people. Look at him now. That's all I'm saying. Look at him now.
Yeah, look at him now. He's still not as big as he should be.
Yeah, no, he didn't have a rival. Name another. That's another thing. Like with Larry Holmes, people talking about the forgotten heavyweight. Who was Larry Holmes' rival in that during his time? You know, Ali had Frazier. You know, Tyson, he was a man amongst himself, but that helped out Lewis and Holyfield and the rest. Wilder had nobody. You got to realize when Wilder came in, the American heavyweight boxing scene was dead. Floyd was running boxing. Fury is what helped Wilder.
Which is why it was dead.
Huh?
Which is why boxing was dead. But
no. Let's not go to that. Keep moving with Deontay Wilder, please. Let's go with Deontay Wilder, please.
Let me say something real quick, y'all. Let me say something.
He had to build
first
up.
of all,
Deontay Wilder built up American, and watch how Jared Anderson benefits from Deontay Wilder because he's next up. He didn't have to start from scratch with the American heavyweight boxing scene like Wilder had.
Say that again.
I said Jared Anderson is going to benefit from Wilder because Wilder had, with the American heavyweight boxing scene, he had to start from scratch. It was nothing. You know, Klitschko was a champ. He was fighting over in Germany. Everybody was focused on Floyd. Wasn't nobody talking about no American heavyweights.
There were about two guys from America that were pretty much around that time with Vladimir Klitschko. One was Seth Mitchell, right? And then there was another one that I know personally. No, not Chris Arreola, but it was somebody that Chris Arreola beat before Arreola fought Klitschko, and that was Travis Walker. When they had that fight was going to determine who was going to end up fighting Klitschko next. And Travis Walker had like a good start, but they ended up getting stopped by Chris Arreola. He lost, and that pretty much curtailed his career.
It was so bad. They was recruiting former Division I football players down there in Miami at the heavyweight factory to build
Jeff
American
Mitchell.
heavyweight. That's how bad it was. This
Yeah.
team was
I won.
non-existent. What was that one boy name? He was dark skinned. He was real muscle, but he didn't have a jaw. He didn't have a chin. What was his name? They said he was next. Damn, what was his
Deontay
name?
Wilder.
Nah, they
Nah.
just said it. Seth Mitchell. That's what he's talking about.
No, not
Who
Seth
said
Mitchell.
Deontay
It was the
Wilder?
other
Who
dude.
said that?
Damn,
Nah,
That
it
was
was
me,
somebody
of course.
before Wilder.
That was me, of course.
yeah. I mean, he had to go through the same thing. Even though Larry Holmes had more, he had Jerry Cooney. That Jerry Cooney helped Larry Holmes a lot. You got to have a rival, or ain't nobody gonna give a fuck. Floyd had Manny. Spence and Bud got each other. You got to have a rival, or ain't nobody gonna care.
They don't have each other, but because they're
That's a
not
good
going to
point.
ever fight. They're never going to fight
Okay,
ever.
that's what they said about Floyd and Manny. That's what
That's
they said
also
about.
what they said about Joshua and Wilder. They're never going to fight. That's what they said about Bo and Lewis. They're never going to fight.
Wilder and Joshua will fight because when Joshua loses 2
They're
more fights,
never going to fight.
The only
Because
way they don't fight is one of them retires.
even if they fight now, here's what's going to happen. He beats Wilder, and they'll say that, well, Wilder's 37, 38 when they
Definitely
fight.
not happening.
So they're running back.
And, you know, he got aged out. Who aged him
Definitely not
out?
happening. Maybe you hadn't watched the guy who fought.
Wait,
Okay, whatever.
Maybe you hadn't watched the guy who fought a week ago. That guy ain't beat neither Fury or Wilder. That guy,
Who's that?
he's probably actually the 4th best heavyweight now after he then got beat by a cruiserweight.
Holyfield was a cruiserweight that beat everybody. Holyfield was a cruiserweight that beat everybody.
I bet you that's different.
Come on, man. Let's not compare these heavyweights now. Come on.
Holyfield was knockouts every. Holyfield beats every single heavyweight today in his prime. Prime Holyfield beats every single heavyweight alive today.
Yes, yeah. The skill level was just totally a different skill level, you know, for that era.
All right. So yeah, with that being said, like this has been a very, very extensive conversation, man. It's what about almost like 10, 15 live Eastern time, whatever it is. So I've been on, what is it, man? It's been almost 3 hours.
You DM me at 7. You DM me at 7:30.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So I'll bring a close to this particular episode. We'll be back at it next Sunday.
Hey, Detroit got a Twitter. Who all got Twitter? I know World Rank got Twitter.
I don't have a Twitter, but listen, man, I have a show I co-host with brother Major Key Boxing tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our guest is Rick Glazier. Always excited.
Oh, no. Hey, wait, whoa. Time out. You just said.
JR ran him off the show.
Now he talking about I had cancer. I don't remember. I told his ass up one asshole down the other. He talking now he blaming it on cancer.
Oh, God.
You having that clown on your show? I can't even watch your show now.
What he said?
Troy, wait.
I busted him in a lie. Now he talking about I had cancer. I can't remember. Okay, whatever, Rick.
Yeah, Rick. I got Rick too a couple of times. He actually was following. He was the only guy I actually blocked on my social media. I remember him saying he wasn't going to order a PBC pay-per-view, and then he commented and said, "Well, my wife ordered it, so there ain't nothing I can do." Wow, your wife ordering pay-per-views, you can't do nothing.
No, he just said that Andrade ducked Triple G back when Triple G was at HBO.
And that's why y'all have a problem with Rick?
No, people have multiple problems with Rick. I do have in the archives where Rick Glazier did say that Errol Spence Jr. would not come back to fight in 2020. He did say that on record. But that, among many other things, is why people don't necessarily like Rick Glazier. But shout out to Major Key Mondays. They do actually have a lot of guests on their little podcast and thing or whatever on YouTube. So that's another thing to check out. We got like a whole bunch of stuff going on. Shout out to everybody that's on here. Shout out to World Rank, Mike Grady, Troy Graham, Lazy Lefty, Mr. Chicken Talk himself. Mr. Marcus, Ohio Runs Boxing, and that pretty much is the end of this particular podcast. And I'm kind of surprised that Troy, you haven't even made that request yet.
What's that? What's that? What's that?
That if I had a couple of big
Oh yeah, about the big girls. Nah. I didn't got no, I don't have anything tonight, but I was gonna tell you and tell all the other gentlemen that if you don't want to watch the show tomorrow, stick and stay because for the whole month, we got some real good people coming on. Also, go ahead and check the archives, man. We interviewed Julian Jackson, Mike
yeah.
McCollum, Asim Rahman, Glenn Johnson, Kelly Pavlik, and a load of other people that you might be interested in
Oh yeah.
hearing what
Yeah,
they
I
have to
listen to
say.
interviews
Also,
all day.
we also
Yes.
spoke to Simon Brown. We also spoke to Simon Brown, and Roger Leonard, and Roger's brother because his name is Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yep.
So yeah,
I heard of him.
Yeah, man. So yeah, they definitely have had a lot of guests on there, man.
Hey,
So
do you
definitely
have
check that
problems
out.
getting do you have problems getting boxers on your show? Because this one guy told me that they be trying to, like you were talking about how boxers don't put themselves out there. This one guy told me that they be acting like they bigger stars than what they are and don't be wanting to come on the show.
Depends on who it is.
I didn't hear the question.
I said, do you ever have problems getting fighters on your show? Because this one guy told me that a lot of fighters act like they're bigger stars.
Listen, man, we do prospects, we do current fighters, we do legends, we do Hall of Famers, we do female icons of the sport, we do current female champions, we do every everybody.
You have any with Corey Spinks? My favorite interview. Corey
Not
Spinks.
yet, but
Oh,
not
you
yet.
gotta
But
get
you
him.
gave me a challenge now. I'll
Please
go out.
get him. He got the
I'll go out and
funniest
get him.
interviews ever. Man.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll just put it this way. I mean, for me, man, ever since I kind of concentrated on covering the sport of boxing, I think that going through boxing, you could access the most amount of people within the sport, and it to me it's a whole heap easier to do it, than any other sport to me by far. So I mean, like I've had, the one year where I've interviewed Riddick Bowe and freaking Willie Monroe Jr. to Gary Russell Jr. all the Russells, to multiple legends at one time. And usually, if you know the right avenues, you'll be able to access these guys. One guest that Troy and them had was Jerry Cooney and who was it? One of Tyson's former trainers, and I was on there for a little bit, and they almost got thrown off by my Mike Tyson voiceover there and that. So, yeah, they definitely.
Oh! You talking about Tommy Brooks? Tommy
Yes,
Brooks.
yeah,
Tommy
yeah.
Brooks has 25 champions to his name and a lot of Hall of Famers. But also, I was going to tell you, man, that it's just some things coming down the pike. We also did Michael Nunn. If y'all like Michael Nunn, go check out the archives and do the replay. He's on there, and he's doing real well now. He's doing real well. And also, since you brought up Bo, we had Bo and James Toney on the same show.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Nice.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna for
So
sure
it
check
sounds
it
like
out.
a
Yeah,
nice
so
show. We gonna give you an opportunity to denounce all your bad comments about Deontay Wilder now.
I would love to interview him, man, but he only goes where people will agree with him. He don't want to have no real interview.
Maybe you're missing the point. Okay, but all right, whatever.
all right, with that, yo,
Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, they do the same thing. Come on now, let's keep it 100 across the board.
hey, yo, yeah. With that being said, man, y'all check out Troy out there with Major Key Mondays, and also other channels there on the YouTube scene. But here with the Boxing Source, we're available on YouTube. We're available through iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all the audio programs that you use to listen to podcasts. We're definitely there with the Boxing Source, and like I said, we'll be at it same time on Sunday night, man. And like I said at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is a hit, not a hit, not understand the trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.